By a phantom ghost.
I actually wince at saying this, and she's well, it's gonna be one of those things.
The greatest trick colonization ever played was like teaching us to hate ourselves and each other so that colonization and white supremacy can function whether they're there or not.
Dr. Umar, you ain't never ever really intellectually sparred with somebody that can call you out on your bullshit. Anybody watching this from Dr. Umar's team, I just happen to be a debater. I guarantee you I will intellectually whoop Dr. Umar's ass.
It's not in our nature as Black people, no, but Black communities are also indoctrinated with patriarchy and ableism and all the things that are also causing this harm.
There is so much information out there on all of this. The fact that you even open your mouth without even going Google, it's literally right there.
They want to keep us divided, so the more that they can say that person doesn't speak English, so they're taking the Black jobs, right? The migrants are taking the Black jobs.
When you hurt a white person's feeling, and that hurt feeling doesn't equate to like political or structural hurt, right? But when white lady hurts my feelings, that feeling equates to me behind a cell, me dead, me losing a job.
I'm going to tell you why I convened you here today, but first I have to say happy Independence Day to my beautiful Bahama land. And I have extra Bahamians here this time. Normally it's just me and Ford, but I brought Ash.
Yes, Lord. Miss.
And Ash told me, please, let's not talk about nothing serious on Bahamian Independence Day. And I said, I could let Christina have us talk about R. Kelly.
What happened to R. Kelly? Because I know, I thought that was dying in jail.
Dying? What do you hear happened to that nigga?
Bro, there's no way that you do what you do and not. Anyway, let me not, because there are definitely pockets of Blackness. Yeah, okay, let's talk about it. R. Kelly, most goated R&B singer of all time. We all know this. At the same time, he could also be literally the scum underneath my skin. So I mean, sure. we all know how he gonna do inside jail. Like his record gonna be awful in jail. Like, I mean, let's be real. My boy ain't got the protection that a fella like Weinstein when he does atrocious things.
Yeah, I don't know. It might not even be like that. Because like, you ever heard the story about that Life Jennings told about
he was
Jeffrey
singing.
Dahmer?
He became a star.
Yeah, he was singing for Jeffrey Dahmer. He wanted him to sing Pretty Brown Eyes.
He's doing whole Sunday sermon.
Bro, you joking. You are definitely joking.
He
told the story.
Life Jennings like must be nice.
He has mad people that follow him around, and he like convenes a whole masses, and he sings to them. He's a whole thing in there.
Oh, he got a talent show in there. Then he take it over.
That's crazy.
This R. Kelly.
So we have a specific. So I'm gonna like Christina. Christina had been tweeting about something interesting around R. Kelly's wife, actually, because y'all know R. Kelly's wife,
Andrea Kelly.
Yeah, Andrea Kelly. You know, there's always like a viral video that's going around with her like her
little Beyonce tip, was she?
But you know, Christina, ever the one to point out, you know, sensible nuance in funny discourse. Christina was making some valuable points, and so I'm gonna let her have it.
Well, it wasn't. Oh, I can't believe you threw me the lob. Oh my goodness. Oh, I got trapped. Oh my goodness. So basically, I mean, it started off as like people kikiing about her dancing, right?
Oh my God.
And being an auntie, as far as I see it, she's just like an auntie who'd be dancing kind of, you know, in an auntie way. But then I saw the discourse go from like, oh, there goes Drea again dancing, to like, she's a weirdo. I get weird energy from her because only a weirdo would marry R. Kelly. And she gives weirdo vibes just like her ex-husband. And probably because she's a creep and a pedophile just like him. And then I just tweeted like, did we know that like Drea was a victim of R. Kelly also? Yeah. Like she wasn't an accomplice to what he was doing. And there was a lot of people that didn't know her story. That like she was also beat. She would be locked away. She locked in rooms and stuff, and sent down to Florida. Went right before he got arrested the first time with nobody telling her anything, isolated from family. She had one friend with her. Went into labor the night that he got arrested because of all the stress. So I was just throwing in a little bit of like, I don't think we we are like understanding that she also is a victim of R. Kelly. And I guess the conversation kind of grew to like, well, partners of like abusers or like wives of abusers. And like people were upset that she still was keeping her name, Kelly. That's what it turned into. Like, well, if she was a victim, why does she still have the last name Kelly? And I was just like, she has 3. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's what's up for discourse. But I'm like,
the fact
she has 3 kids by the man.
Tina Turner kept her last name, saying that, you know, she worked hard for that last name. It's kind of the show business name. Now, I never knew her to be in her being R. Kelly's ex-wife. I'm not sure if it's ex-wife at this point, but I never known her to be. We only know her by that last name, so that's kind of her identity, I guess, especially in the space as her being a dancer. Like she's well known for choreographing lots of different artists and dancing behind lots of different artists. So she has her own, you know, reputation with that name. So, and she has also his children with that last name. So maybe it's more of that type of thing for her. But there are other artists who still go. Nicole Murphy, she's no longer married to Eddie Murphy, and she still goes by the last name Murphy. So it's kind of like, for them, I done birthed these kids. I don't work hard. This is who people know me as. It's part of my reputation. It's part of my brand. It should be optional for me if I want to drop this name and move on from it. I don't know if Tori Hart has dropped her last name, but even for her, in that whole situation, she kept her last name. But I say all that to say, it ain't even about the last name. If she was a victim, but for people to do that, associate her with his crimes or what he's done, and say that she's exactly that as well, that is crazy business. That's crazy business.
And it was all in the documentary.
It was nuts what I was seeing.
It was all in the documentary. First of all, Twitter is just an association of people just trying to get the next thing going. They're not even trying to make sense of it. The minute you make some sense, they go, but well, this, but well, that.
Talk about it.
And it's just like, yo.
Talk about it.
There is so much information out there on all of this. The fact that you even open your mouth without even going Google. I hope I spelled that right. But it's like right there. It's literally right there.
It's right
Google. Oh.
Did they actually? She answered the question of why she kept her name, and that recently, since she got viral again, that got brought up. I forgot where, but in the last couple of years, and she brought up exactly what you were saying, that it's because she worked hard for this name, and no one would really be paying attention to her if she didn't have this last name. People wouldn't be asking for her story, and if she can use this name to talk about domestic violence and other more important things, then that's what she's going to do. And people were judging her for that. My opinion was, I was like, is she wrong? Because we're talking about her because she has the last name.
I feel like people who make that argument are just people who don't care about what it is that she experienced in general, and they just need a way to like move the goalposts and diminish it. Because what the does it have to do with the price of tea in China? Like at the end of the day, right, if you believe abuse is wrong, like if you believe that men should not be abusing women, abusing their partners, and you know for a fact that she was abused by this man, what else is there for you to discuss to somehow diminish her for whatever? Like there isn't a reason to be evaluating anything on her part in and of itself, you know what I mean? But it's this means of how people, it's what they always do. Like every time there's never a perfect victim enough for them, right? Like anytime they talk about any R. Kelly's victims, they find a way to do that, right? It was like you saw it with like Azriel, like her social media, how she acted on social media got assessed like that. They do it to Drea. They have all these arguments. It'll be even when like it's a little kid, like a young girl, they don't know anything about what do they say. Okay, then the parents, like they always find a way to move it from what it is, what the actual issue is. It's just goalpost shifting.
I think like one of the things that we see quite a bit is that if you are in proximity of a man as a femme presenting woman or anybody, then you are very archaically property of that man. And whatever your property is embolic or symbolic of, like you end up running the same thing. I actually wince at saying this, and geez, well, it's going to be one of those things. But I say the same thing with Nicki Minaj to an extent. Hear me out. Because like, we understand that the man that she has chosen to be with and apologize for is indeed one of the most heinous people inside the limelight as association by partnership whatsoever. But a lot of the things that we see Nicki Minaj sometimes getting attacked for is the fact that like she has proximity to this man Yet the fact that he could be heinous, we could address him being heinous. Nicki Minaj has done heinous things outside of the man, so why are we getting on her for her proximity to this man and weaponizing against her in that regard? Like anytime, like when you have the sins of the father, it not only goes to the son, but it also spills on the mother. And like it's always like this thing of culpability being transferred to the woman in proximity to them.
I
just
agree.
In general.
I think you're right. I think you're right generally. But I think I have like nuanced like different reasons for why I feel differently about the Nicki Minaj situation.
That's why I brought it up.
Like, because okay, like first of all, Nicki has been under fire for her proximity to lots of different abusers, right? That's some of whom are by choice, and some of whom she doesn't have choice, right? Like her brother or something like that's your brother, right? And so I think that plays into it. For me, especially as someone who's a defense attorney and all these different things, like I don't have the issue that I have with Nicki Minaj, even like her, people talk about her paying for representation for her brother, right? Like I don't actually think that's like that she did anything wrong there, anything to be criticized for, right? Regardless of whether or not the brother is a convicted, I think the brother is a convicted pedophile, right? Like I still don't think there is anything wrong with his sister deciding to pay for him to get the representation that people are entitled to, right? Like, I don't even necessarily have the problem with her marrying the man that she has, right? Like, I think it's a dangerous game to play if you live in America where the average Black man is criminalized, right? If we take a position that any Black man that has found themselves in the criminal system or that has been convicted of anything, especially if they allege that they believe that they're innocent or whatever story, Nicki them have for old boy. Like, if we take the general position that women are to be shamed for being with any man that's been convicted of a crime or whatever, that's a dangerous game to play, and it's one that I think is bad for a significant number of reasons. The issue I have with Nicki is like, if Nicki were like, he did say like he was convicted of a crime or whatever, then this was a long time ago, whatever have you, today he shouldn't be judged for that, this is present day, yada yada, that'd be different. Instead, what we've heard from the victim, his victim, right? Because he's been convicted of rape and he's been convicted of murder. His victim of rape has said that Nicki Minaj has specifically intimidated her and used her money and threatened them and harassed them. Like, she has said that, right? So that's the thing that makes it different. And when you see Nicki, like, there are all kind of videos and lives and Nicki crashing out talking about how man is a real gangster. He'll come kill this. He'll come do this. He'll threaten academics. All this. She uses him like he's an attack dog, like a pit bull. Like, she takes pride in the criminality of him. Like she's the one like celebrating him like that. So I think that's what makes the Nicki Minaj situation a little different. But you're right though, that there is a general like when a man is this, women are shamed for it, right? You're shamed in proximity to this. But I also think there's some level of like agency and like, I guess, the man you pick, right? Like it's
like a fine line, because it's like there's a fine line between like, oh, well, she's probably a victim of him too, versus like, she might just be a bird. And I struggle with that line. I'll be honest.
I'm glad people laughed at that.
I'll be struggling. I'll be like, okay, hold on. Like, what do we? It's kind of similar to like Megan Good and Jonathan Majors. She just came out with an interview where she was like, yeah, everyone told me not to be with
premiering
them.
today at 1, right? Like, so it's
not
premiering
on
today at
Bahamian
1 o'clock.
Independence Day.
Damn.
No.
Yeah.
What you gonna do about that, bro?
We gotta crash out.
If
Naturally,
we weren't already scheduled, I'd have been like, oh, let's watch that first and then talk. But
that's a Olurinatti pop.
We could do another episode.
No. I would not have that kind of
analysis. That is not pop.
What
is the episode? I don't even know.
With a nice audience who likes me to laugh and enjoy myself.
Yeah, we could go over there and talk about like Inside Out 2 or something.
For me and Olurinatti.
But you're right though, because like I was thinking when you said that, there's a really good point, Christine, because like the way that victims behave when enduring abuse from their abusers, there's a way that like we police it. And as you were saying and alluding to like this idea of a perfect victim and how that looks and how that performs and what it looks like. And we often see, especially the Black women in particular, they are so far away from the avatar of what womanhood and white tears and all them other things that are conflated with that. They're so far from that it's very difficult for them to even be a semblance, maybe even a caricature of a perfect victim. But like, when you're dealing with domestic abuse and like giving space to like all of the women and femmes in particular that has undergone domestic abuse that we have present, that we have watching, like, let me know if I'm wrong, but the way that that colors a situation, especially if you're cohabitating in the same space with your abuser, you often wonder how that plays out, right? Like the way that the pressure mounts upon someone to protect their abuser, some Stockholm syndrome type of way. I really give a lot of space. And Nicki Minaj got all kind of things. You ain't gonna see me holding no water from Nicki Minaj. Let me tell you all that before you all hop on me in the comments. But I'm more so speaking about what Nicki Minaj represents, because she's an extremely talented rapper that also, as you say, like plays into those stereotypes and tropes of black masculinity and also gangster rap masculinity and just the aggression that comes with that. All of that, I think, is part and parcel of her trying to fit into a role that not only society wants her to be, but maybe even like the man that she's with and her association with it, that she has to be. Because outside of that, it makes it very difficult not to be.
Every time I bring foreign on something, we always just end up having a whole different topic, and now it's about to become.
You said it was going to be everything.
I'm about to be getting killed in the comments for being an anti-Barb.
And they're coming. They're coming. You mentioned them; they're going to come. But
they're on their way right now.
Right now,
because my thing is
from out of nowhere.
The thing about Nicki is right, like, and I appreciate you being willing, like, wanting to hold, space for understanding this, whatever, like. But Nicki is a very powerful woman. In fact, I think we need to acknowledge too. Nicki's man is her lapdog. Like that's what Nicki's man is on the payroll. Like
all of her mans. Like what the name the Jamaica before
Safari.
that? Safari.
Yeah. Let's be cognizant of what the structures is around Nicki and how Nicki shit operates. Like, and how Nicki is not somebody being like soiled by no man or what's happening. And
we don't know that though.
Let me tell you. I actually, if I was a gal who liked to be in conflict on the internet, I'd have been do y'all an Eric Adams level expose on the Nicki's, but you don't know that. You know how much I could do you a whole compilation on women that have come through the industry in the last 15 years that Nicki's been a terrorist too. Like Nicki's not a gal. I think the reason why Nicki gets the analysis that she does is Nicki is a woman who shows repeatedly that she don't look, she is nobody's girl's girl. Nicki's not a girl's girl. Nicki's not a girl's girl at all. Like Nicki is a woman who actively, and I'm not even like mad at her for it. I understand like a lot of women, it's the same way like so many black people think there can only be one instead of wanting to help other black people come into the room because they've trained and been in a world to think there can only be one of us. And so you come in for my spot. Nicki has come up in a world that made her feel like there could only be one. That was the time she was in or whatever, right? So instead of seeing these women, like she don't see the industry the way like for whatever criticisms people have of Cardi coming into the game made space for all kind of women, like a whole bad bitch rap became like all kind of gals. That opened up a whole door for like that. And Cardi collaborates with and has relationships with women artists in a way that Nicki doesn't. Nicki will be cool with an artist for about 2 seconds if they dick ride her enough, and the minute they achieve any success, it's beef, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So when you look at like the men she's chosen to be with, she's chosen men that have been like significantly underneath her, like men like a Safari that she could keep under, who on the payroll, and he worked for her. He'd be the first one to tell you. And you see the one that she got now, you know what I mean? And if you hear any of the stories about people who've worked with her throughout the years, women that have interacted with her, is a reason why she gets the shit that she gets. You know what I mean? Nicki is the type of gal, like it's not just that you choose to work with a 6ix9ine, with a The Game, with a this last one that you married to, that you married to. It's not that you help your brother. It's not that you surrounded by abusers in that sense. But it's what you have to say about women. Is you mock Meg Thee Stallion about being abused, and shall you find that that's big jokes for you. Yeah,
we're talking about the morality of a person.
I mean, I never seen nothing
so
like
all
it.
These women, like these women like Nicki Minaj and Drea Kelly and whoever.
Like Rebecca bringing it back. Rebecca's such a journalist.
That was good.
We have a point here. So these women who are attached to these men who are either abusers, I don't necessarily like the point that you made, Olay, is that she has a character outside of that isn't the best. Nicki Minaj, Drea Kelly, people don't know enough about her to dig up her true whatever's it could be. They're just going to associate her with R. Kelly, and I don't like that talking point where they say because she was with him she has to be like him. She isn't in jail. She definitely has been raising his kids, all those kind of things, and has been open and honest with conversations surrounding her ex-husband. I'm not sure if they're exes yet. But her ex relationship. And so she's been open and honest. And she even said for the things that he's done, she hopes that he goes down for whatever. Nicki Minaj's case, she's standing 10 toes down for him. I'm not saying that men can't be rehabilitated. If that's what your choice is, that's your choice. You know, if you want to go with a man that his past includes whatever, his future includes whatever, his present includes whatever, and you're choosing that, that's your choice. But her history and what she did to that young lady, the young woman was in interviews, talked about how he and Nicki Minaj threatened her, offered her money, all kinds of these things. So she told her story, and immediately the Barbs came and discredited her because of her fame. And a lot of people like to do that with R. Kelly too. They like to discredit the claims, the allegations, the truth, the proof, because of his artistry. His artistry is amazing. He's, to me, definitely a GOAT when it comes to music. But outside of that, what he's done, we can call a thing a thing. Now, we can't necessarily attach that to his ex-wife. That's a mess. Now, I don't know if y'all saw it, but the interview with Dr. Umar on Today and the Breakfast Club, he discussed, they brought up Diddy, right? They brought up a whole bunch of stuff. They brought up Diddy, they brought OJ Simpson. And, you know, he says snow bunnies ain't, you know, don't go for the snow bunnies or whatever, his whole thing with that. But the whole conversation was about his history and why Charlemagne asked Dr. Umar about Diddy, and he also asked him, you know, with BET, a lot of people were upset, one being Stephen A. Smith, being upset that BET chose to honor OJ Simpson. And he's like, because OJ Simpson, you know, has a history of possibly being a murderer, abuser, all those things, and BET decided to honor him. Dr. Umar said, nah, white folks is always doing, you know, BET did that because that's a brother. Okay. And he was, well, last time I heard, he was acquitted. And, you know, and that makes it right. He said he was acquitted. That's the last I heard, right? That's a black brother. And then he said, him. And then, you know, Charlemagne gonna point out, but he's a snow bunny or whatever. But my point is, he was making excuses for OJ, but he was saying, you know, to remove that, and we should be able to honor our brothers because white folks do it all the time as well. They will honor these type of people who have terrible history, this and that. Mentioning Diddy, he said what Diddy did was indefensible, but he brought it to this place. And see, here we go. I don't like when these conversations are had, because if you're saying it's indefensible, and I understand he was saying like black women though, if Cassie were another type of person, I don't know why he mentioned if she were Lizzo, a full figure black woman. Yeah, I don't know why he mentioned that.
What?
He said that. He said if it was Lizzo, it wouldn't have been. And Charlamagne was like, no, if it was Lizzo, then it would have been, because she's a celebrity, so it would have been. He's like, well, you know what I mean. But if it was a dark skin, like he made it about that.
But what does that got to do with the price of tea in China? Like
he made it. He almost said, you know, women don't. So he made it so that we have to say that if it were a dark woman, women are hypocritical because every day, you know, they have family. He started going real left. But those.
What was his point?
His point was basically that. Right. His point was that black women are 40%. When he say black, he don't consider Cassie black. So he said black women are considered, you know, 40% more abused than others because she's fair skinned. So he just
they find all these ways to like just move and like I say, just move the goalposts,
make excuses for Diddy.
They actually don't care about the issue. Like and I'm getting ready. I'm in the middle of writing a script for a video I want to put out next week about this. Like how we have to talk fundamentally. What we have to understand as a society. And this is something I want to talk about in relation to abolition that I think it gets laughed out of the conversation a lot, right? It's like, even if we gave all the money, let's say a guy really could take all the money out of policing and prisons and give it to us for all of like the resources that we need. If we still teach people to believe in patriarchy, to believe in these systems and all these different things, it is still going to breed violence. Because fundamentally, if you teach people that women are unequal, you know what I mean? Like, or are to be controlled, or to be acquired, fundamentally that lends to a sympathy or an understanding for the means by which you must control them. Like if you believe that ultimately a woman is to be controlled, a woman is to act like this, like even if you say they shouldn't do that, you're like, okay, well they need to, what needs to happen or whatever. And that's what like this ultimately is about. Like he's gonna keep moving the goalposts because fundamentally it's like,
funny enough,
whatever.
But funny enough, in that same interview, he talked about holding men accountable. But when it got, so my point was, when it gets to conversation about these men who are in higher power, who are abusers, right? We shouldn't be honoring them. And that was my point. But you're right about him moving the goalposts for those people. He started the conversation off with it's indefensible. He also stated, you know, that I think his point, it just got lost, but it started getting crazy. He said that it should be centered around just dark-skinned women. I understand, and by dark-skinned women, he considers that to be Black, right? So he's like, Black women themselves. It should be focused on that.
That's not true because Diddy has a history of abusing Kim Porter and dark-skinned Black women, and he don't give a
women. He don't discriminate.
Yeah. So you haven't chosen to champion. That's what it's the same way. Like whenever people talk about the LGBT community, they make them white. Black people like to make it white, so then it seems like it's a distraction. Like by talking about this, we're not talking about our real issues. It's like, it's because it's Cassie. Let's fixate on Cassie's race or the fact that like Cassie's getting more attention or any. First and foremost, like, yes, it's always true. We live in a world of colorism and racism and all these different things and how those things function. So yes, it's always going to be true that someone like Cassie is going to get more sympathy or more understanding or more attention than a Lizzo. What a Lizzo, yes, that's true. How fat phobia, colorism, all these different things function. None the less, she is still a woman, still a victim of abuse, still receiving on the receiving end of all kind of misogyny and misogynoir, and none of that has to do with you like her being right, punishing. If you want to make a critique or to critique about Diddy's they're only focusing on this because of who the victim is. So like
the conversation still need to be had.
Yeah, like he's an abuser and as a male abuser in this, like first he started off with, he started off the conversation before they said Diddy or before they said, OJ Simpson. He started off literally saying that women need to be protected and, are Black women this and that. The conversation was all right. So, my ears was listening. And then when it got to that, he studied just on the soul, like he started off, it's indefensible, but then went in, but hypocritical. Women are hypocritical because this and this and this. And when it's, if it's a dark-skinned woman though, this is what my problem is. They rallied so much around Cassie, but if it wasn't a dark-skinned woman at this time, it was Cassie at this time. And we don't have to talk about the whataboutisms. And if you want to talk about dark skin, you can go back to the other woman that he abused, literally. And that's what you can have. Like, why are we sitting here
I think that
we have to go stop engaging this outright misogynoir because like that's what if a man we talking about a man abusing women and somehow the conversation he managed to do enough nimble gymnastics to make women the bad guys women,
is that what's being said?
Women who are the colorists, women are colorists. It's Black women who didn't want to advocate for other Black women.
Being that we didn't hear this interview, right? As I'm listening to this, it sounds like he's trying to say more needs to be focused on into what happens with darker skinned women who are not highlighted when this happens to them. This is only being highlighted because it's a fairer skinned woman when there are Black women, darker skinned women that go through this every single day, even in the industry, and nobody says anything. I wasn't there to hear it.
That's not true.
No, that's what he was saying.
First of all, that's not true. I really hate Dr. Umar and lots of people are good at this. They are good at throwing out straw mans. You know what I mean? And like arguments that sound like they have a little bit of sense to it. FD has a concept. After you call it pseudo-intellectual Negro nonsense. You know what I mean? Like trying to trick you. There's a little bit of truth in something. Yes, color. They're trying to he's trying to play on your emotion. Like it's literally, they teach it to you in school. Like as an attorney, like you get, if you as a Black woman is going to be quick to perk up your ears at something that sounds like a defense of you. It sounds like a recognition of like your experience or that you're not big, but it's not. That's not what's happening here. And it's also not true. It has nothing to do. Cassie, I mean, first of all, Cassie was shit on by everybody. Let's talk about the Black community and men across the board, but namely Black men were shitting on Cassie and finding every reason to doubt it. Why'd she wait this long? Blah, blah, blah. Somehow that's not a part of the discussion. Nothing. What actually happened was Cassie had her shit. She went to the law. Her shit was settled immediately. And somehow that still became the narrative against her. Oh, if she really wanted, she'd be looking for justice. Why is she getting money? Blah, 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 blah. That's what they were saying. They did not. It wasn't until a video came out. A video came out and you still had people like Cameron up there acting a goddamn fool on the door. Like, oh, so like, let's not act like, oh, this is because we're paying attention to it now because she's this. No, that is a straw man that he is bringing up because he know Black people. He know we will grab onto that and move on from it. That is not what's happening. What happened was Cassie did something that had not been done before. We've always had rumors that Kim Porter and those were abused and all that, but they never came out and told us that. And they never had a lawsuit where they had pages and pages of detailed accusations and stuff. So like, he needs to stop the bullshit. Before, what we've had were rumors. We had rumors that this man was an abuser, and it was unsubstantiated as far as we know. And then when Cassie happened, it was substantiated, and they still didn't want to hear shit until the video came out. So what Dr. Umar is saying, respectfully, is some bullshit.
And I'm laughing because I'm playing back. I can't believe I watched it, but I was almost done with it. And I'm playing it back because there were a lot of points that he made. I'm like, oh, okay, that Black people need to hear that. I don't care for Dr. Umar. Crack up at his memes. I use his GIFs all the time in text messages, hotepery. And so with the conversation that he was trying to have, for people to listen to it, okay, fine, in the beginning. When they got to this person, Diddy, the way that he just wanted to start off and say, okay, it's indefensible, but she was light-skinned. Let's focus on the fact that she was light-skinned and she's ambiguous and she's not Black. Now, Tahoe, the point that he would try to make to surround, okay, Black women, they don't get heard much. We need to start looking into that. Okay, fine. So he talks about that. He goes into detail about that as well. And he says, he drops numbers, 40%, I believe, of Black women. But then he goes and starts talking about Black women and how we are insecure, right? I don't know how he went all the way into this. He did not focus on Diddy being an abuser or anything like that. He went into how Black women are insecure and that we go out and we are afraid to, and this may be true, we are afraid to tell the police that our partner is an abuser or whatever. We're afraid to have them put in jail, especially as a father of our children. But then he said, when Black women don't even want to, they don't have community with their friends. She can't go to her friend. This was the weirdest turn for the conversation.
Must be two
he said
Black
she can't
women.
go to her friend. And go to her friend and say, oh, Olay, let me in because my man is abusing me because my friend is too insecure to let me in because she got her man there and she don't want her man to have wandering eyes. So now she getting beat up in the street. So
he just made something up. He just made something up.
I'm fast forwarding to the part of the interview with Diddy now. We gonna watch this.
He said this. I swear. And it's like the whole point of this conversation, I can circle it back to what we were saying. He attached Cassie to what Diddy did to her. Nothing about, he made sure that he made her criminal. He made her the issue. She didn't actually be born light skinned. She does that require, because she's that ambiguous and does that say that it's okay for her to
I hate how much I hate Umar. Like intellectually, I know all that's bullshit about Umar, but also he made me laugh because I haven't muted just when I'm reading the captions to try to get to the part that I need to see the show.
I'm telling y'all, it's the
no, that might be the funniest.
He's funny even in reading the caption. Like it's on mute and he's funny. He said I read the caption. He talking about how they be talking shit on his foundation. Our school ain't never got built and they've been donating money for that. He said he said you will see these brothers. He said making their videos to slander.
He's a walking caricature.
He said to slander my name and my foundation to get 100 views. Brother, you did that for 100 views. You thirsty struggle streamer.
He's a caricature, bro.
He's a caricature.
I'm about to say thirsty struggle streamer forever. I'm so sorry. I can't even be mad at Umar long.
No,
my favorite thing that he does is when he repeats the same thing.
He said the struggle streamer thing like 10 times. Now it's gonna be a coined phrase. But
my thing is, so he speaks of Cassie being this light skinned devil to champion dark skinned Black women, but immediately, which would be a good argument, but immediately starts talking shit about Black women that he was just trying to champion.
I don't
about
know how
Black
it got
women are
there.
insecure and
It
don't.
got
How did
crazy.
he get there? He made up a story in his head, like Wattpad fantasy.
He went there.
I
And
think
I'm
that
like,
it's
okay,
more about.
I see what you're trying to say about Black women. That's your MO. That's Dr. Umar's conversation points. And
Yes.
it may be something to be had. That's how he talks.
Yes.
But when he started to go in deeper, because even before that conversation started, see, this is where we go back to the beginning of this whole conversation. Because he doesn't like who Cassie is. This is what I'm going to assume, right? Because and because she's light skinned, right? He promotes dark skin, Black. He don't like no snow bunnies. He don't like no in between.
No, it's not because she's like to
like
give Umar a little
publicly.
bit of defense. It's because she's not Black.
Right,
Like Umar's whole thing
but he attached her immediately to the abuser as the one that, like, okay, we're gonna dismiss the fact that Diddy did this for sure. And then he was saying, like, we're hypocritical. He's like, what he did was indefensible, but we're hypocritical, right? Because we don't call out those type of people in our families. He just went, y'all gotta see it. It got crazy, but now we're dismissing Cassie. We're dismissing Drea. We're dismissing all of these people and their experiences.
Well, we're about to pull it up. You said we're gonna see it. We're about to pull it up. Aaron, pull it up. I went and found the timestamp, 27:42. Let's run it.
That's actually admirable that you were able to surf through that.
It was horrific.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on everything that's happening with Diddy?
Yes, sir.
That's all you said. If Kathy was dark skinned, it wouldn't even be
I believe that. Absolutely horrific, indefensible. But the response from the Black community in the Charlemagne, I believe, is somewhat hypocritical. And the reason I say that is 40% of domestic abuse victims are Black women. Black women are being beat on by on a regular basis.
Pause. Hold on. He said Black women, 40% of the victims are Black women. Black women are being beat on by. He didn't want to say Black men. You saw the stumble? Like, he didn't want to.
Who's doing it?
It could be Black women, but he didn't want to say by Black men. You saw that, though. But bounce it back. Run it back. Watch what happened there. Because you got to adjust for the argument for what audience you're trying to watch. Watch it now. If Kathy was
dark skinned, it wouldn't even be.
I believe that. Absolutely horrific, indefensible. But the response from the Black community in the Charlemagne, I believe, is somewhat hypocritical. And the reason I say that is 40% of domestic abuse victims are Black women. Black women are being beat on by on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Damn, big
By offensive ghosts. By offensive ghosts. We don't know who's doing it. We don't know who's doing it.
It's hypocritical for us communities because we ain't calling it out. Black women are 40% of the victims, but you can't call it out, nigga. Look at
Somebody out there's doing it. We don't know who.
No, we don't know who, but they get beat more than the white woman.
This is a good picture.
Listen, look here.
We could talk about what he afraid to talk about, though. We could talk about what he's afraid to talk about.
He said Black women are being beat on
by somebody.
I've never seen that man stutter a day in my life.
I swear to God, hey.
He literally went, Black women being beat on by somebody out there is somebody.
Maybe he was just
somebody doing it.
It's possible.
Who's doing it?
Bringing it up to be like Black people are hypocritical because Black women are getting beat on by we not calling it out. We're hypocritical because we not calling it out. And I'm like, I don't even know if I gotta hear the rest of this, but
I want to.
Yes.
Oh damn, we lost Rebecca.
No.
Our Onezo. At the risk of upsetting a great deal of the Black folks inside the audience in particular, Laimi, because if we leave it on that cliffhanger, we could be in the arms of many hard wigs, hard wig gals.
No, for real. We didn't talk about.
We could talk about it.
We didn't talk about R. Kelly, Nicki, and Umar in this episode. I could get cursed right.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm trying to help you right now. No, I'm just saying, if we could talk about the fact that if we could talk about Black femicide or just like Black domestic abuse, especially at the hand of Black men, we should talk about that thoroughly. Because if we leave it on the cliffhanger that like they ain't want to talk about that, we will very well play into the hands of particular people that will very much like us to play into that hand. Because like we need to acknowledge the fact that yes, we do see a substantial amount of Black men in relationships with Black women, and it's oftentimes Black men pugilizing Black women and abuse, fight, psychological abuse, all of that. But we need to also look at the different circumstances that lead to these situations as far as just like a systemic reason as to why, because there's a agenda, one would say, to make it seem as though Black men are these puissant, violent, vitriolic men that are animals, and you need to go and basically surrender Black women in totality to the white man in order to make sure that does not happen.
About exactly that point. That's why I'm just laughing.
No, I
don't know why he went there, because
I just don't want to allude to it and leave it there.
I'm not. And here's my thing. I'm never the one. I'm not saying that. Like the thing is, it's these niggas' arguments. They make these bad faith arguments. You know what I mean? That are like half.
And we have to fix it.
Yeah, like, but I'm like, I'm not making that argument. I've always been like, and I think we've talked about this. I hate that, like, when people, you know, they watch something, they watch one thing, and they'll comment, but they don't see all the rest of the other content and all the time to discuss this and flesh this out, because we just had this conversation in the Everything episode where I explained, like, we are in community with ourselves. You know what I mean? We are in the Black community. So you're going to see the results of what I spoke about earlier in this video, like what is patriarchy and misogyny and patriarchal violence or whatever, that breeds violence. And you see that from men in society in general. We are in the Black community, or we are in community and in proximity with other Black people. So we are experiencing that, but that doesn't make Black men the picture of abusers or the most abusive, or the problem being Black men. The problem is, I mean, a series of different things, like a myriad of different things that happen. But it's just stupid that Umar and them bring up these arguments, like, and they bring it up without the nuance of like, why, like all the different things that go. Because is it true that our communities protect abusers or people that are abusive toward? Yes, not just the Black community. Our communities, like the society, protects abusers for the reasons that we protect, like, we protect our hierarchy, we protect our systems, our preservation of whatever have you. We often, in a patriarchal society, you view men as the head of the household, you view men as necessary, you are inclined to have more sympathy to the plight of men than women and all of this. But I think there's a larger, I think this conversation in and of itself is really large, because I don't think it's okay to talk about, like, I think if we're going to talk about abuse and violence and how it's bred, like how people become that, we have to talk about it not just in like intimate partner relationships in terms of like men beating on their partners, but talk about children being abused, and like also a lot of abuse that happens in the Black community happens at the hands of women abusing children, like, you know what I mean, like men abusing women, and women then in turn also abusing their children, and the normalization of that kind of violence and how all of that feeds into it. So it's a really, really nuanced thing.
It's very nuanced, chicken and egg my situation. Thing is, I want to be very clear, because I watched the interview, most of it. So let me be very clear. So my point of this whole conversation is because he brought up all those points that you said, the same one that you said, Foreign. He went in depth about that one, saying that it's something that we got to talk about because it's systemic. He even went into why the Black children or whatever, how these kids are, you know, it comes from us, and he went into the whole conversation, right? But then and he even said that men need to hold themselves accountable. But when it got to this conversation about Cassie, he almost sided with he almost just threw away Cassie, and, you know, went into this a whole other conversation and called women hypocritical, or our communities hypocritical, and all that. That was my problem, because it's the connection with Diddy and the connection with same thing with R. Kelly and Drake. Like, it's that they will say that the person did wrong, but there's more, like, we need to have conversations about why the woman was wrong, or what was wrong with the woman, instead of focusing so much so on he knew better. That's what I'm saying.
That's literally just a rhetorical device. Like, that's what that is a rhetorical device. I gotta teach you an argument. Like, yes, you are going to concede, like, oh yes, that's indefensible, while I proceed to find ways to defend it. You know what I mean? To move the goalpost, to shift the conversation to something else. And how you do that, how it seems real, is when you give people where there are things where there's a little bit of truth to it. You know what I mean? And you deflect them with things that are serious and other things, and now you're having a bunch of other conversations that are separate and apart from what the you're actually, you know what I mean, supposed to be discussing, what is actually the issue at hand.
Crazy.
But let's play Umar, let's hear it, so that, you know, no one could accuse us of not listening to this brother out.
rate for black women is going through the roof. A black woman is 3 times as likely as any other woman to be murdered by her lover. Black or white. Y'all saw what happened with the sister in Milwaukee. 19-year-old black sister, about a month or two ago, went on a date with a 33-year-old Caucasian man. He killed her, dismembered her, spread her body all over the city. This is recent.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He won't bring up black men. He's gone out his way. Black men, like he won't say black men in this, right? Like, oh, it's supposed to be calling out and oh, and it's a lover. But you know, statistically, most black women are with black men. Black women and white men are the least common statistically interracial pairing there is. But you bring up what is an outlier of violence of this 19-year-old on a date with this white man that murdered her. But you don't want to bring up the actual common of the 40% of black women that are experiencing domestic violence in the black community. Who are they experiencing it with? Are those scenarios where white men are taking them out and murdering us on dates? Or what is more likely happening that we are being abused in our households? But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you see?
No, that's fair. That's fair.
And then you had a little 17-year-old sister down in Cape Coral, Florida. She walking back from the movies with her 2 friends, and a white boy just pulled over, gets out the car.
Damn,
he knows his
He knows his base. He know who he talking to.
Women.
He know who he
talking
talking
the other
to.
day where the brother killed his children, killed the woman, killed himself. Those are not typically black crimes. We don't normally do that kind of stuff. We don't crash out like that, but we are now because the spiritual foundation of African people and the emotional wellness.
One black man when he said
that's
we don't
not
do
true.
that.
That's so not true. That's what gets me. And that's what gets me is that he's so, it's almost insidious how clever he is using his words because there is truth. Like these aren't black crimes. They're not. But if you looked at in proximity, like Olay, you said, proximity, who are black women mostly around, number one. And number two, there's also the aspect of like, who has society told is easier to victimize? Black women. So anyone who's in closer to proximity to black women, we're just easier to victimize. And then you include a whole bunch of different, intersections like, okay, fat phobia, colorism, ableism. It just makes it even more easier. But we don't do that. It's not in our nature as black people, no, but black communities are also indoctrinated with patriarchy and ableism and all the things that are also causing this harm that's happened in colorism, that's happening to black women. He's insidious. That was also crazy.
That's what I'm saying. We don't do that. Like, it's these ways that we lie. So, you know what's funny? We do this in a lot of ways as black people. It's the way like black people will talk about drugs that aren't weed and be like, oh, them's white people drugs. And it's like, we had a crack epidemic before we had the crack epidemic, but a little lesser known fact. Y'all should read this book that's called it's by James Foreman about like crime and punishment in Black America. But he talks about like how heroin was a big issue before that. And that
really
the problem. Yeah, heroin. The heroin problem in the black community is actually what made the black church and so many like black leaders refuse to like get on board with the decriminalization of marijuana because they were so convinced that if anything could cause they were convinced that marijuana is a gateway drug and that you're going to end up with people back in this like heroin crisis, right? So, but we will say things like these things, ahistorical shit, like we know black people who do drugs, we know black people, all these different things. I mean, like, that's not a black problem. That's not this. Like, what do you mean black people don't do that? Black people don't crash out and kill their whole family or anything like, or black people don't commit suicide or black people don't do that or black people don't. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We are literally human beings like everybody else in the same society, falling victim to all kinds of different things, being taught to believe in. What do you mean? But it's this way. You see what he did, though? Like, he called out the black community for being hypocritical, for saying that we're not calling out, like, to protect our black sisters. Talked about the statistics of violence that black women experience statistically at the hands of black men. Refused to at any point talk about black men. Brought up scenarios, by the way, that are not a part of that statistic, by the way. Like, if we're talking about the domestic violence of intimate partner violence in the black community, you bring it up. Miscellaneous white men, these outlier scenarios literally are not even a part of that statistic. And then the only time you bring up a brother, a black man in the scenario is to say that don't happen though.
We don't do that shit.
We don't do that.
Mind you, back in May, he said, I believe somewhere he done said back in May that his predictions, because I don't know if he's a prophet.
Please stop.
But he done said that Diddy would purchase a church and become like, and make more money than he's ever had. It's somewhere, it was a claim or something like that that he made. And now I didn't watch that interview, or I didn't watch it. I didn't watch what he said before that. I didn't watch what he said after that. That was just something that I read, right? That he stated back in May. And I'm like, so he got hope for Diddy, or is he saying Diddy gonna go for a money grab in the church? I'm not sure, but the way that he dismissed, you see how from when they asked him about Diddy and Cassie and how he felt, right? They gave that verbiage back to him. It's how he put it out there. That man literally ain't said nothing since and started going in about the crimes, this and that.
It's very
He's
political.
not real. Like what? Nothing is helpful.
It's very political.
Nothing is helpful here.
Can I ask a question?
Intellectual Negro nonsense.
Go ahead,
really ate with that.
I have a question, and I don't want to redirect away from this if y'all not finished. But y'all said something earlier that kind of caught interest in my head. Right when you drew a line from abuse in men back to children. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to talk about moms and shit like that. I love my mother. I love my children's mothers. But do y'all think that there's really a real connection between what happens with kids in their home or growing up, being beaten, and then creating abusers later on in life?
Yes, 100%. I think it's all connected, and I think it's all connected. I even think I think it's in the same way. When people talk about Bill Burr made a joke, like he has a joke in either F is for Family or in one of his stand-ups, but he talks about he doesn't sort of in How I Met Your Mother, but I guess the cycle of screaming, right? The cycle of violence, right? Like men spending every day out in life upset or whatever by how they're treated in these systems, right. And they come home and they take it out on their women.
Show he did is about,
yes,
and family. The dad is just up the whole time.
Exactly. And so he takes that on his wife, and the wife take it out on the kids, and that's very real when you think about the connection of these things, right? And to me, it's what reinforces violence, because the reason why people talk about it all the time, a man won't buck up with a man, but he'll buck up like that with a woman, right? Like a man will not come home, they're not going to fight the men in their life that are doing this or the systems they feel this way, but the woman who is smaller than them. In the same respect, that's why women will beat on the children. I know lots of women in my life growing up who talk about, once their son got too big, they couldn't beat him, you know what I mean? They couldn't fight, you know what I mean? Like the children get older, the children get bigger. So there's a recognition, what you are teaching implicitly, that if somebody is smaller than you, if you're able to, you can exercise for physical domination over them and control them. That's what it's being taught. So that lesson doesn't just go away because you suddenly get into these gender dynamics that are out in life. We are, in fact, that's what I'm saying. It's we are breeding violence. We as a society are breeding violence. Hey, Conscious. We're reacting to Umar.
What up, though?
Wow.
He said, Umar, the Hey Conscious, he said in there, and Tahoe, he talked about that. A lot of these points, like I said, that's why I say he knows better. But the way he can throw his opinion, he can say all of these things, the same thing you said, Olay, the same thing you're asking, Tahoe, the same thing all of us have mentioned here. He will say it, go in, and it's the truth. He knows the facts of the situation. He knows how it's systemic. Then he gonna veer right up somewhere in there, sprinkle some of his little razzle dazzle on it, his opinions, but still make it under the guise of it still being factual, right? All the stuff that he's yelling to, and he likes to call them by name while he's saying these things, which are opinion mixed with facts. He'll say, Charlemagne envy, get my attention, listen here, listen at me. Okay, because this is the focus. Because what I'm telling you is Bible, my brother. No snow bunny, right? Go ahead, Tom.
Are we really are we taking Dr. Umar seriously? Is that what we're doing? Are we really spent 27 minutes speaking about somebody? This is political. This is what he does. Literally, you ask him one question and it goes off into some tangent about all this other shit.
It's problematic because people on the Breakfast Club, right? The dum-dums, the Shade Room. I'm not saying that everybody dumb in the Shade Room comment section, but I'm saying this is what these are the people that if we're trying to fix the system, if we're trying to fix it because we're saying there's a problem here, you just mentioned where it's just where it stems from, how it's systemic. If Dr. Umar already knows that, but yet he's putting out this other rhetoric right behind it, he has followers like Donald Trump too, those kind of people that be after him and will follow every word he says to the T. How can we ever fix a system that he's talking about is broken that we need to fix by putting the blame on like this party only, but then just before that, saying what the issue is and how it's a bigger scope of things. But see, and people are going to focus on that part, which they do all the time on these huge platforms, on that part that sounds good for them. Like that part that tells us that Cassie basically almost deserved it. Like, but we need to focus on the dark-skinned girls. We can't really and that's problematic. We need to focus on the fact that Diddy beat that girl's behind, made her suffer so much mental abuse, physical abuse, all the things, embarrassment, shame, right? This is what happens to women, especially when they're dating these type of men in power. That should have been the conversation.
I'm like, Umar saying so much shit and we barely have even touched the nose in it. And I'm looking at the title of this episode.
And that's 2 seconds of this.
I'm looking at the title
Bunny hopping is
and
first.
The fact that I see the migrant crisis.
That is the first thing.
And the fact that I see the migrant crisis, you know it's about to be a bunch of anti-Black nonsense that's wrapped up in all this pseudo-intellectual Black. I'm telling you, and like it's just we're never gonna be free. We never gonna be free.
You mentioned the migrant crisis.
We're never gonna be free.
Again, there's a bunch of migrants on my route in the street where I work at. They're all basically Nigerian. I thought Nigeria was like a really affluent country. How did Nigerians?
The Nigerians that are able to immigrate to the States normally can have means to do it. But I mean, that still wouldn't save them from being peril to the same systems of the immigration system. I mean, a lake could go off them.
Nigeria is a huge country. I don't think niggas realize how big Nigeria is. Like, man, are there people doing? There are always going to be people doing well. There are people who are well-to-do everywhere, but there are. I think the best way to put it too is I asked my daddy and my uncle Bukala, we were watching a Nigerian movie on Christmas, and they was laughing about something about Nigerian women. So I asked them like, oh, their thoughts or something about Nigerian women, and my uncle Bukala was like, Yemi, there are millions of, I can't remember how many, millions and millions of Nigerians. He was like, there's no generalization I could give you for Nigerian women or Nigerians. Like, there are way, way, way too many. So it's like, it's not like, think about it. Is America not a world superpower that's an affluent country? Are there not tons of Americans living in poverty? Like, so it's like that.
Oh, wow.
Hell yeah.
What the hell?
I ran into Dr. Umar Johnson about 2 weeks ago in New Orleans when I was going to. Yeah, listen. Now, no cap. I'm in the New Orleans airport. Me and the wife getting ready to celebrate the 19th anniversary. I run into Dr. Umar ass. I decided that I wasn't gonna say shit to him because we know
he mentioned the running in New Orleans with a mixed couple.
Get the hell out of here.
No, I definitely ran into him.
Okay, keep going.
Keep going.
You feel me? I definitely ran into him. Swear to God, I ran into him. And what I realized though, when I'm saying and talking to him and seeing him, you feel me? Because we both like we looked at each other, but we ain't say nothing. In my mind, shit, you don't know who I am. I ain't finna cause no scene up in this airport. You feel me? But in my mind, it's like you king African Pan-Africanism, and you do a lot of copy and paste the white supremacist ideology when it comes to migrants and immigrants and shit like that. But you're supposed to be Pan-African. So for me, it's like where is the right line of distinction for your domestic identity and you being King Kong consciousness? You feel me? And like what's the bright line? You feel me? And to me too, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to him talking about snow bunnies and all this shit here, to me it's like, hey, do you think it's transactional for wherever I put my dick at? This is how I should care for my people. So if I'm with a Mexican woman, you feel me, or a Filipino woman, you think that because I'm putting dick in the Filipino woman or the other woman, I should not care about the Black community no more? I think that it's indicative of your bad politics and how you think that wherever you put your penis at, it's always got to be illustrating how you connect with the community. I don't think
I was like, I was at the
he was talking about you, baby.
He brought up running into a mixed. That's so silly.
It's crazy.
Mixed couple.
He said in the airport he saw a mixed couple look at him, and he's like, they be looking at me, and I'm not trying to start no trouble. You know, I love when I see black on black, but I'm not trying to start. He was doing all that, but he said when he was in the airport in New Orleans, he was talking about that. But I like how you said all of that because you're right. He tries to spew out this. If you're really about the people's work and you're caring about people, and we can't It's a whole bunch of people in this world, but he see what he tries to do. He phrased it as, I love people. They are still human beings. They are still human beings. And I'm like, okay. He's like, so we can, but we have to preserve the blackness and all that, whatever the case may be. He even,
And then Rebecca, next week he'll be talking.
Who? Because he probably
claims it's his cousin. He claims it's his cousin, Frederick Douglass, right? Frederick Douglass.
And that ain't no fucking truth. Yo,
so for me, it's like, so to me, it's like, okay, let's look at this motto. If you believe that Frederick Douglass is sleeping with a snow bunny, what does this mean for his advocacy and for his work? Does this throw it all out?
Cam James has a great video, Black Eye on YouTube, that he just put out 6 days ago on Umar, and he talks about that, expose, like, debunk all of Umar's many lies. And it's 30 minutes, it's fire. I figured that's who the shade was. He called him Thirsty Struggle Streamers. He got Umar together 6 days ago.
It's probably, then it was him. You see, he started calling out people because he tries to act like he's unbothered, but he's very much bothered. He went and said he's a therapist, how he still works with children who are white, who are black, who are whatever. But then he even called out, because now I'm going to take it over here because he talked about a lot of things. He talked about Kendrick Lamar, right? He said, Kendrick Lamar, I love him. I love what he did for the people. You know how he talks, Charlamagne Envy. I love what he did for the people. And so, but he's a brother from, now we have to start focusing on gentrification. Seeing that the elite, is that what he called? The elite Mexican.
Rebecca, I hate to cut you off, but I
she speaks.
Oh Jesus, I hate to cut you off, but I just want you to know that if nothing else works out for you in life, just this right here is such an extra stream of income. Like I would buy out concert halls just for this one impression. Okay.
Well, thank you, beloved. No, I gotta give it to you how I heard it, because people gonna say I'm lying, and if you didn't see it, they gonna say I'm lying. So he's literally just putting out this rhetoric, and thank you so much. But he's literally putting out this rhetoric, and I want y'all to know this is not something that I'm making up. He said this, and this is why I say it's super problematic, because he's a Kevin Samuels ass that's going to be out here, and people will take it as Bible, and they're going to think that this is what he is saying is actually him promoting love, him promoting unity, him promoting, but it's not, it's division.
What was he saying about the elite Mexicans?
He said that the elite Mexicans,
I'm sorry.
Let me go. I got it. He said the elite Mexicans, and he was saying that Kendrick needs to focus on, thank you for bringing the music together. Thank you for bringing the gangs together, but you need to start focusing on how the elite Mexicans, basically white Mexicans, and the white people, Caucasians, are gentrifying the area. Start focusing on that, building back in your
elite Mexicans.
And like I said, but that's the problem. See, now you're othering, and you're doing all of this, and you're gonna fearmonger. You're gonna tell these people who are listening, they're not gonna listen to white Mexicans. They're gonna say Mexicans. People who are listening, the dummies, they're gonna listen. They're not gonna do research. They're gonna say Dr. Umar mentioned Mexicans in the area.
People are just prejudiced, and they want excuses, and they will do nimble gymnastics to like justify it. And they like when I really think FD ate with his pseudo-intellectual Negro nonsense the other day, because they love when someone can give them a bunch of stuff that are like wrapped up. It's so tangled, you know what I mean, that people they feel like, there's so much more nuance to it. Like, it's complicated. There's a bunch to hair out. But you parse past all of these like straw man arguments and these things that are just meant to distract you, and it's nothing more but just good old fashioned stupidness and bigotry. All of these things are just bad faith arguments for what, when you parse through it, all it is just good old fashioned misogyny. I don't want to see like that's all it is. Like, that's all the it is. Like,
man, and mixed in some cute ass pro-blackness with his white supremacist ideas of like being for everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To me, it's just like, hey man, we in the middle of an election year, and you're repeating rhetoric that can be volatile and helping conservatives and, Republicans get in office. Now, I know you can't call consciousness, you Mr. Independent and this, that, and the other, but goddamn, I know you care about the black experience, right? So you don't care about how you're going to encourage other black people to get to a poll, to down the poll, and thinking about who the superintendent is, thinking about who the DA is, thinking about who the sheriff is. Like, bro, I think you full of shit. And two, if anybody watching this from Dr. Umar's team, I just happen to be a debater. He can pick when I speak. He can pick whether the speech is 6 minutes or 9 minutes. I guarantee you I will intellectually whoop Dr. Umar's ass. And he can listen. You can scream as loud as you want to. You feel me? You screaming, it don't make you right. I just happen to be a debater, and I think Dr. Umar, you ain't never ever really intellectually sparred with somebody that can call you out on your bullshit. Constantly just happen to be that guy. We can talk about wives and biracial shit, all that. You feel me? But I guarantee you, I'm gonna burn your ass like some good barbecue that they do in the waters.
They gonna send that straight.
Okay, period. That's a call out.
It's gonna go crazy. They're gonna send that straight to him. They're gonna send him. But he also talks. You see, here I go. He talks about a lot of things that we're talking about. It is politically problematic because he then sat there over there at the Breakfast Club, and the girl wasn't there, but just Charlamagne and Envy. So he literally was having this conversation, going in deep, and he said, you know, we have, of course, he talked about the age. He talked about he admitted and said, you know, Donald Trump is bad. He's bad for Black people. He has never done anything for Black people. His he had people executed who 5 of them were Black. Made sure that went through while the transition of power went to Joe Biden. But he still said that he's not voting for anyone. Now, you know, all the little Umar dick riders are like, I ain't voting either. But if you're so pro-Black, you would understand how your ancestors, right? As African people, he calls them African people. As African people, you know, your ancestors have fought, got beaten, died, all kinds of things for your right to just vote. And now you're just going to sit here and as a pro-Black person, the most, you know, Hotep is like, you leveled up Black, right? That's what you think. Elite Black, right? And you're going to sit here and tell people not to vote because it's the people that we're voting for aren't Black.
Man, like,
I'd be so tired. Man, they all the stuff they be saying just be so baked in so much foolishness. They be on this like Hotep stuff. You'll say you Pan-Africanist in the same breath that you like become like an American exceptionalist, be against migrants and immigrants. You know what I mean? Like you want to like, oh, I'm a descendant of slave while literally denigrating where the slaves come from. Like y'all want to know crazy. Like attachment to that Africans. I really don't understand it. People, I'm like, I understand it, actually. I understand it. It's all a bunch of white supremacy wrapped up in nonsense. And it's what it all has been. And I've been tired of hearing it for like a year now. The same people who want to like champion the one drop rule, they'll be fighting for you to say like Logic and them are Black will be the same ones telling you like Black people from across everywhere else in the globe aren't Black. Well, it's just nonsense. If you point out, they start with this anti-immigrant rhetoric. Meanwhile, if you point out that immigration is a Black issue, that the majority of immigrants who are finding themselves in ICE for the longest and dealing these things are Black immigrants, yada, yada, yada. They don't want it.
No, they're a tether. They're a tether and they're trying to come to America and steal resources.
They didn't think they were Black when they were in their country until they got here.
The Hotep stay with that. The Hotep do stay with that talking point. But I didn't hear his conversation surrounding that. I know that he likes to talk about Haitians and how Haiti is, you know, was once a great country that white people came and had the, you know, he has those talking points, right? But then he'll go and his people, his following, you know, the ADOS, I don't know, but all those people, which are fine. Love y'all, mean it, because I know y'all be in the comment sections mad.
Y'all came here by your own volition. I did not take y'all here. Because y'all can come and say that, foreign on the, foreign doing the diaspora thing.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm glad it wasn't you. I'm glad it wasn't
I ain't
you,
do nothing.
Honestly, if I came here again and you did it, we would have had to like talk or something. We would have had to fight or something.
In the conversation, Tariq was like, I could put hands on feed him for if he do this again.
Hey, listen, man, I'm born and raised in Bryan, Texas. You feel me? I'm born and raised in the same city that my people were slaves in.
They could announce you.
They call me tether. They try to call me a tether and shit. So to me, it's just like y'all make a lot of just accusations and you throw shit at the wall, hope for something to stick. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. They literally just lie on your name.
I'm Malaysian as far as anybody else is concerned.
They be calling Mark Lamont Hill Jamaican. They be calling Mark Lamont Hill Jamaican. Like they come up with all kind of shit. Like I really watch lie on my name for extended periods of time. Like I showed when I tell you I was showing Christine, I was like lying on my name for 19 minutes straight. It's crazy. Like just
they
lying.
saw a picture of me with my Black boyfriend and said that's a white man. They don't. There's nothing that's common sense to them.
They don't care. They just is lie. They just is lie. Like,
and let's talk about policy real fast too. Cause think about it, man. You can't talk all this shit about not voting and doing all this here, and then you make an analysis that emphasizes the significance of Haiti as if Haiti isn't caught up in the abyss of international relations that allows for America politicians to set up coups, that allows for American corporations to go set up and steal resources. But you say you're not gonna do X, Y, and Z. How can you be a Pan-African that cares about the global experience of Black people politically, socially, socially, economically, while you foreclose and literally concede the power to a right-wing feeling because Biden ain't black or because the person, you full of shit.
Because they don't care about the black experience. Because they don't care about the black experience internationally. Like let's just
can you
be
be Pan-African then?
Because the undercurrent for all of this, the undercurrent for a lot of this is American exceptionalism. So if we could just let's just be like real clear right now. I sitting there as a Bahamian guy, listen to y'all talk, and I get in, like I let you know right now, all of this is American exceptionalism first. So when you make the argument of how you could say X, Y, and Z, you talking about Black Americans who don't have the same power as white Americans and would like to wield that white American power. And so they find the closest thing to wield that power to, and that is Black foreign people who literally come in, try to fit in where they can fit in. But these people don't. But who you are speaking about, the people who have the loudest mics, the biggest platforms, the most stringent arguments, the wildest arguments, they don't care about the Black international experience. And I can tell you that because I can watch any Bahamian, right? I can't speak for other Caribbean people because I don't live in any other Caribbean country. But any Bahamian that works in tourism right now can tell you how they are treated and how it hurts when they get treated by
hell yeah.
Right? Because you don't get to, because there is a power that you have with the American dollar that does not equate in your specific society.
And our American accents too.
So there has to be a very open and honest conversation about how American exceptionalism.
How do Americans change that narrative? What should Americans be focused on doing to help change this whole diaspora thing that's happening? Because I don't really know what to do. I try to be.
I don't think it's American. Ash talk.
No, I'm going to say this. So there has to be a very concerted effort to look at oneself, right? So I can sit in a conversation and let's just put it this way. We can sit in a room of people who have been abused, right? Because no one was abused in the very specific way that I was abused, that no one else is hurt equates to my hurt. And so I don't want to look at the hurt of someone to the right or someone to the left. And so there is this willingness to completely ignore the experience of the Black diaspora. There's this argument that a lot of people make, that there's this argument that is made that because you come from a majority Black nation, that you don't suffer the effects of racism. Or you don't, but you suffer the effects of colonialism. You know how wild it is as a Black Bahamian to walk into a Black Bahamian restaurant and still not be served the same way a white person would be served.
Or to have areas of the island you can't go, blocked off because that's where the white them may live.
There are beaches. Nassau is now the capital of the Bahamas right now. Nassau, there are certain beaches that you just cannot access. You cannot access. Eleuthera, ancestral land, has now turned into just an American playground, right? There needs to be this, and it's upsetting, and it's very upsetting because you know what I can do? As a Black Bahamian, I can sit down and I can talk about, at the very least, a surface level. I can have a surface level conversation about slavery in America, the Reconstruction period, Jim Crow. I can then go and proceed to talk about the civil rights era and now the modern era of the way Black people in America are being treated. And I can also talk about the way Caribbean people have contributed to that struggle. But you know what, and that wasn't taught to me in schools. That's something that you talk about here because you know as a Black Bahamian, you go into America, they ain't say, oh, let me see your passport, let me make sure you's a Black y'all from the Caribbean before I treat you bad. No, I didn't ring up and string up the way anybody else getting ring up and string up, right? So you learn about where you go into. And what American exceptionalism does. Well, what the power of the West has done in general. So we don't even want to just put this down to just American exceptionalism. But what the power of the West has done has allowed you to be the center of the experience. So when I go to a place, I don't need to learn about that place. When I meet someone from a different place, I don't need to learn about
They
that
don't even need to
person.
know.
So
when you think about it, the fact that the Bahamas is like one of the top tourist destinations in the world. Everybody's heard of the Bahamas, but they can't even get our country name right. Like everywhere, like you see, they can't like capitalize the T when you tell them there's this disrespect. There's this when I correct people, like, no, we're not Jamaican, no, we're not this. Like people act like Americans have an attitude, like they offended that you even like asserting where it is you from or that you should get the country name right.
But Yemi, it's even in the way that you introduce yourself, right? Hi, my name is Ash. Hi, my name is Ash. I'm from the Bahamas. And I can tell you there have been countless occasions I'll introduce myself to an American. Hi, my name is Ash. I'm from the Bahamas. Where are you from? I'm from Georgia.
Yeah.
I'm from Hi, I'm XYZ. I'm from Georgia. Don't we own
Yes.
Nah,
I get them in the comments. Anytime I talk about my immigration situation,
that's crazy.
Don't we own y'all? Don't we own y'all? Don't we own y'all?
Don't we own you? So now there's not even because you view your states as different. So you view your states as different countries, right? So obviously I need to know. My favorite thing right now is pretending like I don't know what states are.
Oh, yeah,
Where's that?
Where's that?
Right.
Ooh, Ash, I know you pissing folks off, Ash. I know you is
pissing
people
it's real. Like someone like I think that all the time. Like people will send me something like they'll send me something. They'll be like, I saw something. Someone sent me something. They wanted me to boost something, and they were like, "Oh, it happened in Bahamas." And I'm like, "Where the the Bahamas?" Like in my mind, I'm like, the Bahamas is a collection of 700 islands and keys. You talking about Nassau? Are you talking about this? That is a different place. Like, yes, 700 islands and keys. So it's be so crazy to see people like.
No, that vapid girl the other day who was on that one show that bringing the black people
just one.
Oh, when she was
I'm about to say which one.
Daddy's Caribbean.
No, she was running on nobody's Caribbean, but she was running on. She's like, my friend went to the Bahamas. She went to not the Bahamas.
Megan from Backers Club. I saw that blaming us for that.
And she was like, and she lost her leg. But now the whole TikTok thinking that we got just a bunch of shitty bacteria in our water. And like, you don't think tourism is our literal number one product. So now niggas buying tickets. So
not only that, but like the minister of health and them had to literally put out a statement. Do you realize how like the dynamic that's involved, where you believe that you are entitled to say something disparaging about a whole country and then elicit a response from a minister official,
and have to, and it's because we're raised in like what people don't realize, like the effects of. And this goes, I'm getting ready to write a thing for a show and I'm getting ready to launch. But like talking about like colonization and how colonialism and all these different things function to like affect all us in this way, because we're raised in the Bahamas. Tourism is our number one industry, and they teach us in school how to serve foreigners, like how to serve tourists. You know what I mean? Like the Bahamian is put underneath the tourist, right? Which leads to a lot of xenophobia that the Bahamas has. And like you tie up that and then tie up being taught like anti-blackness in colonization and then you'll see like people weaponize that xenophobia, but against like black foreigners, like Haitians and people who are not even the ones who are not the ones like creating this subservient class between us and tourism.
No, because
exactly, right? But they teach you that in school. Like Ashley, we was just talking about this the other day. Like you wouldn't believe this, but if a Bahamian could sing or could dance, they will send your ass to the airport to shuck and jive for tourists. I swear to God, I tell them.
You laughing. But I want y'all to know, my fat black ass was out at the airport or the harbor singing folk songs.
You gotta sing the song, man. You gotta sing the song for them.
That's a thing with the Caribbean.
They only can understand.
Show me a little Show me a little ski taste, little sunshine.
Sing it.
Oh God.
No.
PTSD.
No, literally, puppy. No, for you about to laugh. They literally sent me at the airport. Watermelon is spoiling. Watermelon is spoiling. Watermelon is spoiling
Not on
on
Independence
me,
Day.
God.
oh me, oh my, oh baby. Watermelon
Not on
is
Independence
spoiling
Day,
on
my
the
life.
vine.
Come on.
That's a sucking
No,
time
on
song.
Independence
Because
Day,
why
I
is the
gotta tell, I
watermelon
have to
spoiling
tell
on
you
the
this
vine?
story.
Right.
What the hell?
Right.
It sounds like a
Yeah, bro,
minstrel
I have to,
song.
but you know what's so funny about that song? That song is recorded in the Smithsonian, right? They sent two white Americans to Cat Island to record a
Wow.
Joe
Bahamian
Spence?
man,
Not
right,
shocked.
on his banjo singing that song. The two white names, and I meant not memorizing them, the two white names are recorded.
Not here.
You know what they got the banjo slinging man?
The banjo
Name
singing
as?
man.
No,
Okay.
man.
Golly, damn.
That's Joe Spence's song, though.
Like,
I'm positive that's Joe
and
Spence.
it be like the thing that I find frustrating to what Ashley was saying, and I honestly, Ashley, you put that so much better than however it felt. It's like you're forced, especially like as an immigrant, you have to know everything but America. I know I am a literal expert in American political American history, like degrees, all this, you know, all of this. And then people who don't know, they don't even know your country's name. They don't know shit, have the nerve to think that they could speak to the Black experience or the lack thereof, tell you that you don't know colonization, that you don't know racism, that you don't know this, that this isn't your experience. That is infuriating. And like, they don't see it. Like, I'm like, you are from a world superpower. You're from a world superpower with the citizenship and privileges that come with that, assuming that you would have, like, the whole world has been colonized. Like, black countries are either, like, even if you think you don't see white people in the same way, because I've seen this, people be like, they think because we live like in a Black community that like racism or colonization and systemic racism don't function. And it's crazy to me because a lot of Black people, even within America, live in their own Black communities.
Yes.
And so I don't know why. And you know how systemically and all these things are
yes,
functioning. So I don't know how you could think we live in nations that are like, I'll hear people, and I see this a lot from Black Americans, they'll talk about how young America actually is an experience. I'm like, the Bahamas, this is our Independence Day. How old the country is? Foreign
51.
51. The country ain't as old as our parents, like our independence. You know what I mean?
I know the country and its structure is 51. But then you're dealing with gals like me who come from families who help set the foundation for this country that has been colonized for over 200 or so years.
And also you have like basically a structure of petite bourgeoisie that is still very much in power, white Bahamians and whatnot. And Bahamians revel. I don't talk about this too much, especially given the circumstances, but Bahamians revel, Black Bahamians especially revel in a brand of anti-intellectualism and anti-historical value of our own history, and value and revel in the idea that, oh yeah, this is a Bahamian, he can say even though he white, he can say he Kunky Joe. That's fine. Why y'all we ain't like the Americans? Why we getting all this whole race thing? That's the whole libtards. You literally have Bahamians that will get on. We have white supremacist Bahamians that will get online, that we follow, that we know of. I know Alimi them know because we already had to cut up with them already, and will regurgitate white. Okay, boom. All right, so Kunky Alex, we got who I go on to school with. If you're watching, you need to stop your shit before I go on boycott even harder than I did before and put you back inside the toilet when I was bullying you back in school. Because I mean, the whole fact of the matter was you still got white Bahamians that live in a particular crust above Black Bahamians, no matter whatever paucity of riches that we do have. And you will have Black Bahamians that are darker than tar itself that will still, if they have a little bit of proximity to the same petite bourgeoisie, sell whatever dark-skinned Bahamian it is, go and say, oh no, we good.
But that shit right there,
how bad colorism is in the Bahamas, like between colorism, xenophobia, like, I mean, advanced colorism is one of the earliest. Colorism and xenophobia are some of the first things I ever knew in the Bahamas. Because like my daddy is Nigerian, and my family, like Ashley, is a real all the way back Bahamian family. My mommy's side, we are real all the way back Bahamian families, and my mommy is red and a core Bahamian like that, but I am dark, and my daddy have an African name as far as I'm concerned. My daddy's African, so I was always like, some of the first things I saw up close was the way colonization and the way anti-Blackness like taught Bahamians to weaponize, to worship, like to feel like they have to serve white tourists while actively being against the Black immigrants. You know what I mean? Like, and there's a difference.
No, because you learn that you learn that in the books, right? So we have a social studies book that you learn that you have in primary schools. It's literally called social studies, and tourism education.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
I forget about that, but yeah.
No, tourism education. And so you open up the book, right? I will never forget it because I went to government primary school before I transitioned to private school. And so I can't speak to whether or not the private primary schools learned from this book. But I do know tourism education. So you open up the book and all the pictures of tourists you see. So I was maybe 14 when I learned that a tourist could be black.
Yeah.
Okay? So you open up the book and you see white tourists, and then your teacher's saying you gotta be nice to the tourists because if you ain't nice to them, the tourists ain't gonna come back. And that could be your fault when the country can go into. So now you are asshole little child smiling at every white person you see because it can be your fault if the tourists don't come back.
And that's what you were taught.
That's in making it in the Bahamas. In making it in the Bahamas.
And then transition.
They have it written in our books in making it in the Bahamas to teach us that Bahamians. This is in the book. I remember like this in history class. Like this is the answer to the test on the quiz. That Bahamians were lazy. That we were lazy and we were given our independence because we had none of value when we were lazy, and that slavery was not so bad in the Bahamas. And that, I mean, I want you to understand how deep. I actually just the other day bought a bunch of different new Bahamian history books because I was like, I'm getting sick of these Americans saying bullshit to me. I getting ready to have to make a video essay about like Bahamian stuff. And I found all the old white history books they have with the colonizers telling you, writing in there. You could see them in the Amazon discussions, the white people commenting, "Oh, I'm so happy to find out slavery wasn't so bad in the Bahamas."
In the Amazon comment section.
Yo,
in
the Amazon when I hear all of this, right, and I see on the internet, I see all of the back and forth between people of different countries and Black Americans. For one, I take it as for just plain ignorance. Me personally, right? Like I have West Indian parents. I identify as Black American. I none of my
West Indian
grandparents. West Indian grandparents.
Now I feel like
West Indian grandparents, right?
Panama. But where they from?
Panama, Barbados, Aruba, and Grenada.
We got some middle pass.
Definitely. The Panama Canal. Did that whole run through the Panama Canal back then. But I wasn't taught none of that, so I grew up in Marcy Projects. That's what I know. That being said, I do love West Indian culture, even from the East Coast. I love the West Coast. Like I take in love for other people that look like me that I feel have similar experiences. But I do believe that there's a level of distrust that happens between Black Americans and people from other countries. And the reason I can say that, right, even in the last 2 days, on my timeline, while y'all was talking, I went and found them because I follow these two people. Two people that I've been around, I've been to beach parties with, they've been at my crib, been in my house. When they had an issue between their country or in a Black America or whatever, one of them says, when people realize Black Americans are idiots, you will learn to ignore them. I'm not listening to nobody whose descendants outnumbered white people in America by far and yet remained enslaved for 400 years. This is a person I've had in my house. The next person,
I could read you.
The next person,
right
since
now.
you Black Americans sending everyone back to their countries, make sure y'all cut them dreads out y'all here too. Go back to Jerry Curl, you pork dreads anyway. No devotion to spirituality or nature. And the thing is,
it's like, comments right now.
You know what? So, and you know what I'm not gonna do? I'm not gonna invalidate how those comments could hurt by telling you that that's like they're not, that they're right on it, because they're not, right? But what I will tell you is that there's a power dynamic between Black Americans and Black immigrants. There is and you know what? There's a because I want to be very careful, right? Because the whole concept of diaspora wars
it's anti-Black. The concept of diaspora is white supremacy.
It's anti-Black in general. Like just the whole concept of diaspora wars is just like dumb to me, right? But I think what we need to maybe this is about to be a clunky analogy, and forgive me, right? But it's when it's about to be a clunky analogy. But it's almost like when you hurt a white person's feelings, and that hurt feeling doesn't equate to like political or structural hurt, right? Like it doesn't, like, so me as a black person, I hurt this white girl feelings, and yeah, she can cry for a second, blah blah blah, right? But when white lady hurts my feelings, that feeling equates to me behind a cell, me dead, me losing a job, me losing my reputation down the line. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that it's right to say any of those things. But I think it needs to be acknowledged at some point that before the genesis of social media, discourse, and before the engaging of these pockets of communities that we can get together in concentrated corners of the internet, before all of that, you had Black immigrants facing discrimination from all pockets of American society.
I understand that.
And until that is genuinely acknowledged, there's always going
Animosity.
to be like this biting back, the hurtful.
I don't understand what the power dynamic and I literally am ignorant to it. I will say that I do understand that we looked at West Indians or Africans in a certain way. You go back to the African booty scratcher or go, you coconut, or those type of things. I understand how those type of.
I will tell you what the power dynamic is.
Darling, your passport
I can tell
is
you
your
what the
power.
Yeah, like let me tell you what
your power. Let me tell
you what the power dynamic is. Every other white immigrants, like the reason why European immigrants, Italians, Polish, all these different people have been recognized as white is because the white America recognized that it was to their betterment and their power to change legislatively how they created and go get rights for them and pass for them. The reason why Black immigrants, our countries can't get anything. Like you can't get a work visa. We can't get here. We don't have no special carve outs. It's the reason why Haitian immigrants make up spend the longest time in ICE. We're the most mistreated. We're the most criminalized. It's because not only do you have white America against you, and it's not the fault. I always say this. It's not the fault of Black Americans. They're being fed white supremacy and xenophobia and all these things just the same way the rest of the Black globe is as a result of colonization. But how that functions in application is why like me don't have a green card, don't have citizenship, don't have status, why you can't earn money, why you can't do anything. It's the reason why most of the Bahamians that I know or foreigners that I know like myself who tried to come over to school are back where they are or end up or find themselves in those positions. There's a difference. Like, and don't get me wrong, as somebody who has lived, like I said, I've now lived in America since I was 14. I understand what is the unique experience of Black Americans and what they're up against in their country and all of those structural impediments and everything that's happening there. So I will never paint it as though it's like Black Americans' fault or even that it doesn't exist. You don't see these same kinds of xenophobia and anti-Blackness weaponized even within, like I said, it happens in the Bahamas. You have it there. It functions differently. But there's a big difference. Like whenever people do this thing to what Ashley was saying, like about the hurt feelings, for every you saw 2 comments, I can show you hundreds of comments every single day from Black Americans every single day. Foreign can tell you when we come offline. You see my social medias are deactivated every day on the most disgusting of levels. It's like, it's not only, it's all anti-Blackness. It goes on both levels.
You will hear ignorance. For sure.
I know it's ignorance and anti-Blackness both ways. I know I'm never going to pretend as though there aren't Africans or Caribbean Black people or Black people elsewhere who speak on or diminish and dismiss the Black American experience that they don't understand because they're being fed, they're watching their American propaganda and all these different things on TV and it happens those ways. But to be in this country, how xenophobia functions, to be Black in America. So you are Black in America and experience all of racism and everything that comes with it, but not to just not be a second-class citizen, to not be a citizen at all, to have no rights or protections afforded to that, to not be able to earn your money, to not be able to work, to be scared and stressed. Like what happens in the election, like what happens when Trump gets elected is very different than what happens for you versus what happens to me. I'm had a visa denied and had to get out of a country I've been in longer than I was ever in my own country because of those things happen. That's the difference between hurt feelings and actual power. You know what I mean? So when people decide, when they decide to embrace xenophobia and this idea that like black foreigners or Black people are not American, are not Black, and thus should not be protected, thus should not be considered, that has real meaningful effects that not only hurt Black immigrants, but ultimately will hurt Black people overall.
If I could just say this. For one, Olay, I see the words that are spoken to you on the internet, and I want to apologize for all of that shit because I believe in you I believe in your mission for me and my people, our people. I know you don't deserve that shit. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to let you know that I apologize 1,000% for all of that shit that's directed to you. Again, I will say this.
Friend. I know you love me. I love you too.
That's just ignorance. I've been saying this since the beginning of this episode. A lot of the people on the internet are people you and I would never, ever speak to. Like, I would never find myself in the same room with you, yet I'm subject to hearing your thoughts. And it's insane that we're flocked to these pages every day, right? We go right to the Shade Room comments and we see even the people that would go there and comment, we know we would not talk to. That's one thing, but I will say this. As far as my experience as a Black American and what I've heard, this is not how I feel, what I've heard. And Conscious, I can't wait till you speak. I know I jumped in front of you, but I feel as if a lot of Black Americans feel that other Black people look down on them. Like, y'all think that we're lazy. Like, that we feel like y'all get all of the hospital jobs, or y'all get these communities where y'all get the houses and shit like that, and we up in the projects. I know that listen, I'm trying to speak for what I've heard, not for how I feel.
No,
but it's like,
but the thing is, and like I know why
we're competing
because that's what white supremacy is, what white America, that's what they give you. They want you to believe that. They want you to believe that so that you, instead of hating our oppressors, you hate each other. The thing that's frustrating as an immigrant, as I understand that they think that, I understand exactly what they think and what they feel. And I even understand why they think that and know why that's not their fault. The frustrating part is it's not true. It is so much harder. Imagine going to a place, like, you get this, what it is to be a foreigner somewhere, to be visiting somewhere and you're not from here. Imagine living in a place like, we can't take your job. We're literally not allowed to have it. Like, you know what I mean? We can't do it. We cannot do it. We literally, for me to, like, let me give you an understanding what you have to do it. For me to even get into a law school, they only let in 7 to 9 international students into a class at a law school. Think about that. Like, that is the carve out. You are competing in an entirely different pool that is less for you because they know you can't get a work visa. They know you can't get a job. In order for me to get in law school, I had to be one of the best. You could Google it. Accepted everywhere, Phi Beta Kappa, every honor society, working like a mother dog, you know? For me to get a job, like coming out of law school, nobody would sponsor me. Like, you can't even get it. Like, I couldn't, like, it is so... It's just not.
Man, you done talked about this though. Man, you have talked about the opportunities that you're not afforded because you have this immigrant status that literally forecloses you from getting access to certain opportunities, to certain jobs, to certain houses. And I think that what we're describing right now is a masterful analysis of American exceptionalism. And I think that what I'm saying, what Tahoe was talking about is showing how, though Ashley is right, there is a power dynamic that always already exists, and something about being an American citizen, having an American accent, having access to American passports that gives you a different type of power. You know what I'm saying? When we start talking about how they be anti-Black to us and we be anti-Black to them, I do think that though it does bi-directional, I think that there are times that Black Americans, we try to covet and center our American identity at the expense of other Black people. I also think there are other times that Black immigrants try to make themselves into the American exception at the expense of Black Americans. I still think what Ashley's saying is true, though. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I think that the power that I wield as a Black American ain't comparable to what Olay can do. You know what I'm saying? Olay can hurt my feelings and call me ugly or something, but I can say some things to Olay that could make it where now legislation, policy,
you could call ICE. You could call ICE on her.
And niggas threaten you like that. They really do. Like, that's real life. Like, I think to people, I'd be like, you don't know what it is to not be able to quit a job because you, like, they can make you, they know you're an immigrant, so they treat you like shit. But they know to quit or to be fired is to lose your life, to leave the country. Like, that is not an option. I have had the situation where court officers go to physically attack me, where niggas, like, the level of, like, xenophobia and bigotry and stuff that I've had to endure and you cannot go, or they know where they pay you last. Like, you know, you can't even get a promotion as an immigrant on a student visa. You know, I can't do that on a work visa.
When I asked you about doing content creating, and I said, so you gonna do this? And you looked at me and said, Conscious, I can't do that. If I take some extra money, they will send my Black ass back to the Bahamas because I am not allowed to make money outside of what they thought I got a visa for. I'm like, wait, what? So you can't hustle?
Christina,
no.
So it's just
no,
like
I just
if
have to
I
do
know
everything.
in every instance black people get treated worse, if we're talking about immigrants, you damn right, black immigrants get treated worse than other immigrants. So now we put that in just position to a black Americans like, fam, it ain't competing there. But going back to Umar Johnson, I think that because we're able to acknowledge, like for instance, I got a master's degree in education. I know that on most higher education, most of the tier ones here in America, when they start talking about the black population, majority of the black population is not going to be from America. They're going to be from Nigeria, from the Caribbean, from over there, right? I think that when Dr. Umar starts to make these different claims and shit like that, he does it in a way where he's not giving his due diligence on the entire context of what we're talking about. And he's making a snapshot, you feel me? Like, well, because in this one instance, I believe that black Americans are overrepresented by black people in international, this must means that black immigrants can do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, nah, Umar. Nah.
Yes. Christina, you was trying to say something. I know you've been trying to get in.
Christina back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't.
No, I can hear her.
I can't hear her.
You can see and hear her?
Yeah. I'm trying to get into the house.
Oh my God,
It's
Christina, I didn't know you were here.
Damn.
Oh,
you
my
can
good
see
sis
and hear.
been trying to get
I
in.
thought Christina was gone.
She been trying to get in for a
Chill
second.
Oh my God, I could only imagine.
Christina's banging on the wall like,
what Christina has.
Y'all like, y'all talking over
These niggas
her.
not let me say shit.
Bro, you need to
That's so
stop.
crazy. Damn, Christina. Damn, and that looked like a we complain.
We silence
Christina
the
as the black
biracial.
American
Y'all was
voice.
repressing my good sis. I'm like, Christina, I see you.
Damn.
Oh, Christina, you have to refresh or something. I don't know. I don't see or hear
There
you
she go.
anywhere.
She coming
Oh my
back.
God, there you are.
Yeah,
Christina, you
wow.
are not here.
God,
I know you thought we just
God
were
damn.
ignoring
I
it.
just
I
thought
promise
you was going for like an hour.
Listen, I was listening the entire time.
That's
Christina,
torture.
I
That's
thought
torture.
you left. I
She was
thought you
gone
left.
for a second, but she came back, and then y'all was just talking. She was trying to get in. She was trying to get in. I'm like, damn.
Oh my
Oh
God.
Lord, she in here talking in the chat. She been
Christina
talking to
probably
herself.
thought, like,
oh
my God, align me. This is some American. They talking about
It was
oppression.
like,
Look how they
they-
treating me
the comment
as the
section,
American.
They trying to say it's a black American.
Right.
I'm
You know how
crying. No,
you
I
know how we
was
gotta do black
listening.
American women. You know how we gotta do black American
See,
women. We gotta
when
show
I-
them every once in a
Please.
while.
Now
Like,
I gotta
Please.
hand you, sis. You gonna get your monologue. You the monologue. I let y'all be free people, sis. You gotta.
Oh
free
my
people.
God, no. I was listening. I was really listening all the time. And I was like learning a lot of interesting stuff. And I was trying to address what Tahoe was saying about the right before Ashley and you were speaking about like the power dynamic.
Yeah.
I think that it's difficult for a lot of Americans to understand the power of our passport until they leave America.
Yeah.
And I've lived abroad. I lived in France 3 times. I've visited Senegal. I've been to the Bahamas, but I was like 12 when I went to the Bahamas. So it's been a minute since I've been back to the Caribbean. But you don't really. There's 2 things. You don't conceptualize the power of your American passport until you see it in these other places
yeah.
where there are other Black people, and you see by just holding this passport the type of power you bring. Because we're in America, all you experience is like the oppression that's happening within America, and you're not going to fully see it until you leave. And
most of them
regardless
don't
you being
leave.
Black,
Sorry.
Yeah, most of them.
and most of them don't leave, and most of us, there's a financial, social and economic privilege to being able to leave,
Right.
unless you're like I was able to do it through scholarships and through working. So there was even that aspect. Like I wasn't like a rich expat, but the mere fact that I'm able to be out there with an American passport, it meant something, and I was noticing that. And the second thing is, I think a lot of Black Americans conflate the hurt feelings that that are attached with feeling like we don't have an attachment to roots and an ethnicity. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That gets conflated with the power dynamic that comes from American exceptionalism and having an American passport and not having immigrant status here. We often feel like we have to, and I've also felt that, and I felt it while traveling abroad when people would be like, okay, like, well, where are you from? I'm like, Black American. They go, yeah, we know you're Black, but like, what is that? And then I would have to, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, my family has roots from Louisiana and South Carolina. You know what I'm saying? So you realize, other Black people, they can, whether or not they can, right? But they have like this pride. There's a pride that I've experienced in like speaking to the Black people across the diaspora. A pride. There's not like a pride
to being American that we have, even though being American has power. So I think that conflation of like, we feel like we don't have pride in our Blackness.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our ethnicity of being Black American, some Black Americans don't even realize that's an ethnicity. Half the times when these motherfuckers talking about this person not Black, you're trying to say that they're maybe not
They're
like
not,
Black
they're not
American.
ethnicity.
But our ethnicities, including the white people, like white American, they see white, Black, but like that's just the ethnicity when it's like race, and it's become somewhat an ethnicity specifically over here. So I think that gets conflated to where it's like, yes, it can hurt, or you feel like a type of disconnect to Blackness, because to be a proud Black American, you have to be proud
and
of being a Black American, and
we don't
want
have that. And I think that it's definitely I think misconstrued that there's a Black American pride that's attached to America. Yes, we're attached to what we've overcome, but for me, it isn't something that is higher than what West Indians, that the pride that they have for where they're from. Like when y'all say I'm Jamaican or Bahamian or Bayesian, like there's something that you're attached to that's positive most times. When the pride that we have for being a Black American is mostly attached to struggle. And
but you notice you said us Caribbean nations and not the African one, because like, not for nothing, people, I am denigrated a lot for being Nigerian. Mind you, I'm Bahamian born and raised. I've never been in Nigeria. I've said this a million times, but I'm Nigerian. But the way that people use me being, they choose to ignore me being Caribbean, because there's a way that people will exoticize and they think Caribbean is cooler than they think African is. But they shit on me for being Nigerian. Like the way people, I'm telling you, if I showed you the comments I get from Black people about calling me because I'm a Nigerian is.
I got a theory on that, Olay. I did my little DNA. Found out I got a little Sierra Leone, little Nigerian, and
that.
Yeah, but I'm a little embarrassed to say it. You feel me? But I could be real and say that I had to really take a step back and really process my own feelings and emotions when I found out I was a bit Nigerian, because in my experience of being a Black American, the that's been the nastiest to me has been other Nigerians. So for me, when I learned that I was Nigerian, it f***ed me up, because I was like, damn. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, being real, I was like, I hope I ain't Nigerian. They be bad, they be mean to me. You know what I'm saying? And this is when I was like, I'm 33. This is happened. I did this when I was like 24. You know what I'm saying? 23, 24. So it's almost 10 years ago. But I think that it's something about the white gaze that we all talking about that we not really kind of acknowledging with specificity. We're acknowledging that Black Americans will literally put the European gaze on black immigrants and literally try to center ourselves as being American. I agree. There are times that I can acknowledge, hey man, to be Black American is not being a part of being the pride of America. But like Olay may say, goddamn, if I need to be over somebody, I'll remind her ass, American, I own your country. Mm-hmm. I'll kick your ass out. So that right there is showing you that American hegemony, that white gaze, or the flip side. When we thinking about how our feelings is being heard, or how we being told we monkeys, or a katha, or we ain't got no region, or we ain't got no land, we seeing it as being like the white gaze. And what hurt our feelings is we recognizing the same tactic the white folks use on us, you're using it. The same way I think that Black immigrants be like, damn, the same way white folks treat me, you treat me. Which brings me to something when I've gone abroad as a Black American, that I feel like I got hit in the mouth and humbled, is realizing I got the American passport and being like, shit, I'm American, and then being at like a resort in Jamaica, and then shit, Jamaicans should treat that white person with their white American passport, then they treat me with my American passport. And that's why I think that white gaze fit into it, and why we start thinking about desirability. Ash, you f*** me up with social studies and tourism education. I'm going to think about that for the rest of the day.
Yes. Oh, I can show you the books. We can show you the books. Like, I don't know. They're still using them. I don't know how we got. I don't know how we got here. It wasn't even you. It was not you, for him. It was me. But and I let y'all just fly with it. But my thing is, we learned a lot. I think the conversation, and as much as we want to run from it, it's always going to come back to it, because we get to be real about our experiences. I can't invalidate Tahoe's experience. I can't invalidate, especially because I can understand a lot of Olay's experience, because my parents literally have to go through that till this day right now. Can't do a thing, can't do nothing, can't say nothing.
they have to function in the same manner that Olay has to function in. And so imagine how hard they had to work for me, who was born here, but still treated as other Black here, told that my parents ain't no good, all that. We get to have this conversation, but understand that it is systemic. They want us to look at each other like this. They want us to, no matter, no matter how our experiences are or what's real and what's true, they want to keep us divided. So the more that they can say that person doesn't speak English, so they're taking the Black jobs, right? The migrants are taking the Black jobs. That rhetoric is very problematic. So when people like, and again, I did not hear what Dr. Umar said as it relates to migrants. I know that he said something educating about the Haitians on there, but that still, those people who are in the hotel space, they will push that same rhetoric that Donald Trump said. It's the Black, it's the Black immigrants, the Black migrants that are the problem here. And in fact, that's not the issue. It's systemic. And why we ain't got jobs is because they want to make sure Black folks ain't got jobs. And it's not like, we have to start looking at it from outside of the what they want us to be with each other. Because if they keep us fighting against each other, especially in the online spaces, child, if they keep us fighting against each other, they can start doing all this other stuff behind the scenes against the government, your leadership can start doing stuff behind the scenes against migrants, against Black Americans, and then we can go back and say we blame each other for it.
That's what I'm going to say. I think, and that's what I'm getting ready to say in the script I'm writing right now, but I think the greatest trick colonization ever played was like teaching us to hate ourselves and each other so that colonization and white supremacy can function whether they're there or not. Like white people don't need to be nowhere near the building for us to like implement it, right? And I think like the greatest thing I think I want to dispel as my closeout for like Miss You Hear a lot is people have this idea, and I see it because they tell me every day, is that we are not Black in our countries, that we are only Black when you get to America. Like a lot of Black Americans who say this, not in general the majority, because I don't think the majority of Black Americans have this like xenophobic thing. That's not been my life experience. I've been in America 16 years, and I really think this shit has only amped up the way it has in the last 3-4 years. Like I really wasn't experiencing that from Black Americans on this kind of level. But I think there's this idea that we only see ourselves as Black once we get here. That this understanding or being treated or perceived as Black is unique to here. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Oh, God. Like, that shit piss me off. Olay, that shit make my ass itch when I hear that.
Listen, in the Bahamas, I'm wearing the Bahamian flag right now. The yellow is for the sun, the aquamarine is for the water, and the Black is for the people. Like that's what it.
You say, boy, look, you saw me die, right?
You walked into that though.
Not her saying I am the most Bahamianest Bahamian ever.
You walked into that, gang.
Screaming.
Please go, because I went and asked them to bring their Bahamian selves on here for Bahamian Independence Day. You brought it up.
I asked.
Who could not find your Bahamian?
I have my Bahamian bandana. I didn't have a shirt in the color, and Foreign ain't wearing Bahamian colors. He's wearing like navy blue shirt every day. The Bahamas. He's wearing
My whole room is Bahamian. I am in the Bahamas. You ain't gonna win this one. You ain't gonna do this.
He's married to an American, and he have an American citizenship.
You better end the episode quick before you lose, because it ain't gonna win.
Can I step in real quick?
Hey, Olay said you ain't even Bahamian. You
literally one bread. She said,
"Me one in my Bahamian passport. Not this one who's be traveling as what?
And
That one who
I had
an
a
American
choice.
passport to travel in style.
I had a choice and I came home.
He done treating them bad on that Bahamian passport. He would throw that American passport at them.
Yo, if I could say something.
No, a whole story about them treating him stink with his Bahamian passport and him quickly getting his American passport for them.
Fight back. You can fight back.
It ain't no fight. I right there. The whole room Bahamian. I sitting in the Bahamas. I sitting in the Bahamas saying the girl that in the States right now said that I ain't.
He wasn't just here.
And I come back home.
You celebrating big movie in the city.
Mom, you ain't gonna win this one if I really won't go in.
What's the on reality show? Reality show.
That's an excellent promo. That's an excellent promo for
Independence Day, though.
Yes, that is a promo for Foreign's reality show, The Getaway, that is on Netflix.
The only Black person
as
on
a
it.
real friend.
Excellent. Represented and the only Bahamian. Yes.
Hey, a dumb question. Who did the Bahamas win their independence from?
The British.
The British period.
I thought that was a rhetorical.
Everybody.
Yo, can I ask something real quick? How much when y'all are getting taught in your schools abroad, do they speak about the Black American experience here in America?
More than our own.
More than ours.
We know about the civil rights.
More than ours.
We know about the civil rights.
May I say something real quick before you go, Ash? Very
quick.
Please take it from me after this, right? Mm-hmm. You know, they don't teach us much about y'all experience. So when y'all say this, right? And when you say we act like you've only been Black a week or a month or for the time that you've been here, that we're talking about being looked at the way white people here look at us because we don't know what your experience is over there because we have not been educated about that.
But that's the ego. But hold on. In every other context, how can we understand in every other context like arrogance and ignorance? Except
I totally get it. It's ignorance.
Exactly
I don't know.
Saying.
Yeah.
It's like shut the fuck up, like on other people's experience that you don't know about. Like I believe that, and I think it goes both ways. I be the first one to tell my mommy and them. Y'all are experiencing y'all thought process and policing. Y'all are watching American propaganda, and y'all are not hearing from the Black American experience, and y'all are assuming all these different things that you don't get it. You haven't lived in this country, you don't get it. Like my daddy will say things. I've heard it goes both ways. Like I'm saying, it's ignorance on the parts of everyone. Yes. That is how colonization functions: is to not teach us our own histories and to not teach us the history of each other, but to feed us propaganda that makes us anti and against each other. I completely agree. Black Americans are not being taught stuff, just like Black Caribbean. Listen, Bahamians. Our national average is a D. Bahamians don't know Bahamian history, let alone anybody else on. But we have more pop culture and more access. American media is what's like fed and given to the rest of the world. So you, by virtue, you learn things about American culture more than you would other places, including your own. I know more about American history than I know about the
reason why shit bad too. I think that a lot of us Black Americans don't recognize how hegemonic Black culture is to the rest of the diaspora, and literally how most people throughout the world get force-fed Black American culture from different media. So when they get here, you feel me? A lot of times the only idea they have is what they've been taught, but also a lot of us Black Americans internalize centering ourselves and being anthropologists is able to dictate the way the world is identified and the way that the world functions. I can't tell you how many down south I didn't have to argue with. Hey, this my home girl, she from the Bahamas. Like Jamaica? No, the Bahamas. Like this, like same thing they out there. It's like you sound like an ignorant white man.
And the fact that that's not seen as offensive, like I, as a person, like I believe, and I think it's offensive both ways. I believe like it's important for me to respect like the different like cultures within Black American culture, regional differences, where are you from, all these different things. But it's the fact that no one like so often do people feel the need to afford the same respect to us. Like it'll be people will send me super chats, watch the show, comment on this in your audience, and insist on telling every other island they're calling us, we from there, we from wherever. And when I'm like, that is not where we're from. Like we're Bahamians. They get an attitude with you, like don't matter, whatever. Same and it's like it does
same
matter.
Difference, same difference. Barbados, Bahamas, same difference. Like what?
No. But to Tahoe's point though, when you referenced the fact that you're not taught that in schools, right? So I think what I need to say in reference to American history needs to be a little bit contextualized. Bahamians don't specifically learn about Black history, right? We don't specifically learn about Black history, but we learn about our contribution to American history, right? So there's an entire community. There's an entire community in Florida, Coconut Grove, that's built by Bahamians, right? Call it Little Bahamas, right? It's literally built up by Bahamians. So South Carolina, you can't tell the difference between the Gullah Geechee people and Bahamians because we share the same accents, right? Bimini, you can stand on the beaches of Bimini and see the lights of Miami, right? There's an interconnected history there. Dr. Martin Luther King wrote a lot of his speeches in the mangroves of Bimini. That's where he bent for peace, right? But it's not like you just specifically learn Black history in the Bahamas. Like I said, you go into the States, you got to get in where you fit in. So what you do, you learn about how Black people treated there, because ain't nobody can see me as a Bahamian first. They see me as a Black woman first, and then they proceed anywhere after that. And so when you say that you're not taught that in schools, I think it's
twofold.
That's twofold. Two-sided, possibly multiple-sided, right? So on one hand, you don't know because again, it goes back to American exceptionalism. You don't have to know.
Yeah.
You just don't have to. There are things that you don't have to know because outside of your own reality. Let's be real. I don't care what's going on in my neighbor house. If Miss Roca don't have rice and don't ask me for no rice, why the hell I gotta know Miss Roca don't have rice? I don't need to go and I don't need to know.
Not you, doxing Miss Roca.
We love you, Miss Roca.
However, I know I'm going over to Miss Roca house for some dinner. Miss Roca, you got some rice? Let me go to the store and get some rice for you. Now I gotta learn what kind of rice Miss Roca like.
That's an excellent. Right? That's an excellent Bahamian ass analogy.
That's so Caribbean of her.
Talking about some damn rice.
And we can acknowledge that there are Black experiences around the world outside of our own. It starts with this conversation. Let me go
please don't give Bahamians too much credit on her history knowledge by listening to Ashley. Ashley is an advanced level education.
I was about to be like, they taught you
created what's called the Bahamian citizenship test.
Nah,
the rest
Ashley
of us
already said that she learned some shit about herself.
Let me just
that was the first thing I caught from.
Okay. Before I let y'all go, just so y'all understand. Ashley created a thing called the Bahamian Citizenship Test, where it's the only test the Bahamians have ever voluntarily taken. Like online, where Ashley asks us questions, we all answer. It's like very communal. No one gets them right. Only her and Bahamians who are at least 65 know the things that Ashley know. None of the rest of us know. Ashley has advanced. If I need to know something Bahamian, I call the phone Ash. Because I don't know. And a lot of Bahamian history is not like readily like available. Like you could just Google. You need to know an old Bahamian or be home where they could point you to some artifact. You need to know an old Bahamian or Ashley. So please don't give us too much credit. The national grade average is a D. Me and foreign don't know all them things Ashley talking about.
Well,
okay,
I want to talk to Ashley right now. Like so then there's a history then that of enslaved Africans from the Americas maybe going to the Bahamas to escape or nah?
Multiple ways, I think, right?
Both literally both ways. So there's a village in Nassau called Gambia Village. It was literally founded by freed Africans. Many of them would have been on their way to the Americas, right? So there is a deep history, an interconnected history of freed slaves going to the Americas and from the Americas into the Bahamas, right? So it's so much to learn. There's so many stories that can be told. Like Black America, there we go, man. Bahamas slavery, everything. Like I will always stand on this hill. Black American history is also Bahamian history. Bahamian history is Black American history. And to not know one is to also not know the other. You do yourself a disservice by not learning about Caribbean history and its connectedness to Black American history, because the same front lines a lot of y'all was on, our grandparents, our great-grandparents were standing right on.
We probably share ancestors. That's what a lot of people, the way that's why it's so frustrating. Specifically the diaspora war between like Black Caribbeans and then like Black Americans.
It's stupid, man. Talking about it both sides of the way.
It's like, hello, same bus, different stop. And then when I had learned, I don't know very specific information like you do, like where exactly, but when I learned that, hey, New Orleans was a hub for a whole bunch of Black free or enslaved going to the Caribbean.
That's what I learned. The North is Caribbean.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. My family is right. I'm not entirely sure if they're all Gullah Geechee, but right there. So it's like but since moving out to like New York, I think a lot of it, to what Ty was saying, is like proximity. Black people, Americans just got to be open to like learning and realizing that we are ignorant. Like grew up in California. I did not come across a lot of Black Caribbean people at all.
Me either. And
up until I moved to New York, and I moved to New York 2 years ago.
And now we're everywhere.
You know what
now
I mean? It's
mostly in New York. Someone is like most Black people are usually of Caribbean or African.
Yeah. So when I'm popping up and people are, you're obviously Trinity, you're Trinity, or you're obviously Guyanese. I'm like, I don't.
You would give Guyanese.
You definitely would.
You do give Guyanese.
Right, but at home, but at home, that's not even in the you literally do not know. The only people you're probably encountering, I'm encountering a lot of Ethiopian people and encountering some people that have like a parent or grandparent from the Caribbean, but it's just not in my close proximity. So it's like a time to learn.
Man, very
I was just in New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? Our people are like,
oh, your granddaddy was from out here. I can see that. So but I also got used to that traveling abroad and like being able to see and experience, oh, there's so much diversity in the Black experience. And I think that is what gets lost. We're so like, well, no, but we Black Americans, we have culture. You can simply just remind somebody that we do. It doesn't have to be a war. It doesn't have to be, you know what I mean?
Perfect. That's the perfect point, because like I said, I come from, my parents were the first generation Americans. So we grew up here, but we grew up Haitian because we grew up in South Florida. So everything, you have everybody speaking Creole. There's going to be an area for people that everything is still Haitian. You got Little Haiti, you got different areas where Haitians gather together. So my first experience of Blackness outside of being Haitian, because my church spoke Creole, all my friends in school spoke Creole. I was an interpreter. We talked about this on previous episodes. At a young age,
Creole too,
to speak Creole, And so, and people come up to see, it gets crazy because they be saying, is y'all Jamaican? Haitians have a different accent than the people in the Caribbean. We got just a different accent, okay? They'll be like, okay, so you speak French? No, our colonizers spoke French. Our language is Haitian Creole, right? Like, that's French in it. I said, they got Creole. French in it. It's not French. I don't speak French, and I love my language, and it's beautiful. But I say all that to say, my first experience with actual Blackness was when I went to Florida A&M University, the number one HBCU in the nation. But when I went to that school, okay, that university taught me so much about my Blackness as a Haitian, and me being in America. And I saw Black people from all over the world, from the UK, from Africa, from the West Side. I didn't know that there were like Black girls from California, because my little hub was just a little Haitian hub. My household, we grew up Haitian. So when I saw that, and then they taught me about what America taught me, which they really didn't, about being Haitian or Haitian history. My dad gave me that history. And it was also in the books that they taught me at FAMU, where they made us unlearn what we learned in high school about the little things about Caribbeans and stuff like that. So I learned a lot about Black Americans that I loved, and we got together, and Black people from the UK, just all around the world. And there on the highest of 7 hills in Tallahassee, Florida, there we were able to really love on each other, grow with each other. It ain't no diaspora wars at an HBCU, but when you go out into the real world, you start to go back into that. And I'm so glad that I was able. Now I can acknowledge some of the things, like I said, all of our experiences. I can say that the worst experience that I got, bullied by a lot of people when I was younger, having to fight all my life when I was younger, because I was Haitian. But when I went to FAM, I'm meeting a lot of people, and we're just like, dang, you speak this, like, what was it like there? Like when you talk about South Carolina, never would I have known they had an area there where they speak another language or still instill the history of where they came from there. I would think it was just another southern little area, but no. So it was a lot of, I don't know. The internet does allow a lot of this struggle, but I love to find out and educate myself on people. Olay being from the Bahamas, my experience with Bahamian people was not great growing up, right? But meeting her, understanding her struggle, knowing that it's not different from a lot of my family struggle or whatever the case may be, like, it's just educating ourselves and choosing to educate ourselves and not keep spreading the division talking points, right?
Let me make this point for real fast.
If Haitians decided in mass to be anti-Bahamian, they would be well within their rights. If they decided just based on no, Bahamians it's factual. It's not. It's the whole Caribbean. Like I said, it's what colonization does. They teach you to look down on Haitians and to hate Haitians because they don't want you to look at the people who
freed themselves,
fought for their freedom. They don't want you to look at those people in an inspirational way. They don't want you to see yourself. You know what I mean? They want you to look down on those people. And so Bahamians treat Haitians
and I've never thought about this way.
It's treated as a slur. Like I always said, people. I was bullied and mistreated my entire childhood because my daddy was African, but they never called us African. They were calling us Haitians. Wow. Yeah.
Damn. I think that this conversation made me realize that the power that white people have internationally is to wield European kinship in a way that they're always able to protect themselves, hoard resources, fight wars. It's like the United Nations in a lot of World War I, World War II is fought out of a European kinship and them clicking up with different Europeans and being like, hey, we all agree we ain't Russians. Everybody in favor say, okay, Russians. So in my mind, when we start talking about diaspora wars, it's really fighting at the way that we can structure African kinship throughout the globe and make it where instead of us thinking about and talking about kinship, now we talking about I got a Texas flag, you got a Bohemian flag. You ain't got no culture. And for me, it's really recognizing that the diaspora wars and divide and conquer is really a white supremacist invention. Or I'm really thinking about how, like, when I watched the remake of Roots, you feel me? And you got Kunta Kinte over there, and you got a person that just got, you know what I'm saying, captured. And he like, man, it's something different about these plantation-born Africans, basically. It's like they're in a lost tribe. You feel me? Yeah. When I was in high school, and I was in high school in college, I used to represent like Lost Tribe. I always get a tattoo. I'm part of Lost Tribe, this, that, and the other. My point is, though, I think that there is a intelligent design that make it where we don't get to talk about Pan-Africanism, African kinship, the solidarity, you know what I'm saying, internationally, because now we got to start talking about Bohemians versus Haitians versus UK versus Black Americans versus all this, and then make it where, hey, instead of us talking about how can we get to the Congo, how can we get to the Sudan, how can we get to over there and make it where, hey, listen, man, if they got all the cobalt and lithium over there, and these corporations from America, China, and France, and Israel is over there taking their shit, we should be able to do something. Well, we know us as Black Americans, we got that damn Black passport. They're going to do things that discourage us from literally using our kinship, our resources, our accessibility to helping people over there. And I think that this conversation is really a part of unpackaging. How can we think globally and act locally, like Huey P. Newton said, in a way that allows for us to really work for the political, social, economic liberation of all, and not just thinking about the match signifier here in America.
You just
a word, real rap bars. That's the final word.
Just me up.
I know.